Group station live from the Comcast Business Studios. 97.5, The Fanatic. Now, the John Kincade Show. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
I try to be consistent in that I look at every free agency move or every trade and say, is my roster better? Now, there's other issues like what you pay and putting money into the future and figuring out, eventually the bills are going to be due. But overall, are you a better team than you were yesterday? And the response, at least from Eagles fans on social media and otherwise, to the signing of linebacker Devin White was a bit confusing to me. And I think that there are arguments to be made that it's not a great signing, could be a good signing, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. But the bottom line to me, and it goes back to what I just said, is the Eagles are a better team today having Devin White on their roster than they were yesterday when they didn't have Devin White on their roster. The 7.5 surprises me a little bit, little more than what I expected him to get, and I would believe that that is probably based on market demand, that he had opportunities to go elsewhere. This is a guy who got benched last year. I don't know if that means that he was part of a team that was underachieving, that maybe the defense as a whole, he was being victimized by it. I do know this. He's been lousy against the run every year of his professional career, and he was expected to be this huge impact player. But that doesn't bother me because, again, I look at it and say he's better than what they had. And so to me, that's an improvement. I love the fact that it's a one-year deal, $7.5 million for Devin White. A little pricey, but a one-year deal. You're in, you're out. You get the test drive, and you get the extended test drive to see, what do you see in this guy? What do you like in this guy? He would not be the first player in NFL history to be someplace after they're drafted to go to a second place and then blossom. Maybe Vic Fangio, who I'm sure signed off on this deal, sees something in Devin White that he goes, misused, not doing the right things. We can find a way to make him really, really good. He's been a disappointment in his professional career. He had one really, really good year right out of the gate. But overall, bottom line to me is, Bob, the Eagles are better this morning with Devin White here. And that's what I'm always going to focus on first before you get into the weeds of the other issues, and there are some.
Yeah, they're better because they didn't have anybody there to begin with, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you didn't have anybody. So, Devin White was a guy a few years ago that, was just everywhere, it seemed like, all over the ball, a guy. I remember, I think it was me and you, Pat, one time after a Tampa game that we were talking about. I'm like, oh, my God, that guy was like it was like a Monday night game or a Sunday night game, something where Tampa was on the national game, and he had a really good one. Benched last year, play has gone down, apparently over pursues, apparently doesn't stay where he's supposed to be an awful lot. Is that fixable? Hope so. I'd rather hear that than hear physically he's lost this, that, and the other.
Bottom line.
So 26, can Vic Fangio get the most out of him? Here's hoping. Yeah, they're better because, like I said, there was nobody there before. So now you have somebody there. Does the combination of Devin White and Nakobe Dean scare anybody? Probably not, but maybe that's a combination that, well, I'm not going to say maybe. It's a combination that somehow Vic Fangio is going to try to get to work. Maybe Nakobe Dean is the stay-at-home student, know the game, know where I'm supposed to be, all that, and Devin White tries to fly around and find people. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. He's going to have to be better than he was last year, that's for certain.
Well, White's a guy who is not good against the run. In fact, every year of his professional career, he's been one of the worst linebackers against the run. Nakobe Dean is a guy who wants to get in and shoot the gap and get after the quarterback and create that kind of mayhem there, which Devin White, by the way, has done in his career also. I like the fact that it's better than what you've had, and it is a bigger investment as far as talent-wise. When you're buying the $1 million, $1.5 million linebackers to come in here, that's not good enough. And to me, and I saw you vent a little frustration about it on social media, Pat, I can understand people commenting legitimately on weaknesses, but the guy, again, you've improved your roster. Whether you love the signing or not, he improves your roster.
Let me say, I love Twitter. Love it. Because you write competent, and people just think you mean Hall of Fame linebacker. He's better than they had a human being named Nicholas Morrow last year playing linebacker for them. I'm sorry, I'll take Devin Wade over Nicholas Morrow. Yes, forgive me, Twitter sphere, for getting excited about the fact that they don't have somebody from Lowe's Home and Garden Center playing linebacker for them this year, which was the fear that I had. Forgive me for not getting all Zach Bond up. But yes, he's an improvement. That's literally all I was looking for. I'm not even, at this point as an Eagles fan, I'm not looking for an incredible all-pro linebacker because I might as well look for, flying pigs. But I got a competent linebacker. I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the first thought. And yes, you can get into all the other things and say, yes, he is not good against the run. It has been a severe deficiency. But if the guys up front are doing their job, it becomes a little less of an issue. Yeah. And he does have the speed to pursue sideline to sideline.
Yeah, he does, and he showed that before. And he had 9 sacks in a season. And we've seen games, and it was the game in Munich where he was really. I was just looking it up because my mind was wandering. Had a couple of sacks and forced a fumble and things like that. There is playmaking ability there, and it has been shown before. And like I said, of all the stories I read about him and all that when free agency started coming about, I don't recall there being anything talking about him losing anything physically. Over pursuing, not being where he's supposed to be. Yeah, have heard it all. Not great against the run. Yeah, but nothing physically that says, for a 26-year-old, he's lost his step, lost this, that, and the other. There's some reason that his play has gone down. Maybe it's scheme. Maybe it's, self-discipline. But that's up to Vic Fangio to fix.
One thing that did bother me a little bit at a Tampa Tribune, just going back and reading stuff about him, is did he suffer from the weight of expectation of where he was drafted and the way he came out of the gates? That he was on a really, really good defense the first year. He comes out, he's a high draft pick, and he delivers immediately. And then as the talent around him started to fade, where they thought he was going to be the guy to step up and be that next level of star, he's never reached it. That bothers me a little bit if the pressure was getting to him. But again, that's just a writer's opinion, as far as to what went down. I do know this. The talent, when he had talent around him, which the Eagles are expected to have, by the way, when he had talent around him, he did have more than competent years. So hopefully that's something they can deal with.
Yeah, and, there's still holes to fill. Like, what exactly is going on with the DNs? Are you keeping all those guys? You have to get years out of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Are you satisfied with the corners now? Is Keely Ringo a starter? Who's your slot corner? Are you satisfied Blankenship being a safety alongside C.J. G.J.? Like, there's still a lot of questions there. When those are answered, I think you find out more of who exactly is what. Nakobe Dean's going to be our biggest question mark probably going into this season.
He was last year, too, which is the strange thing.
Yeah.
We got the same storyline again, which is frustrating.
So it's going to be interesting. I like it in the fact that, like I said, haven't read anything that he's declined physically.
No.
When you have someone who's over pursuing, trying to do too much on a basketball court, baseball, football, hockey, whatever. I always kind of looked at that as, okay, I'll take that.
You can rein that in.
I'll take that. I don't know if I can extract out of somebody to try harder. I think I can implement into somebody to, no, hold on. Use your energy and stay here or go there or make sure you're here. So that I don't mind. When it's a consistent problem, as it appears it was last year with him, you have to wonder. But maybe a change of scenery is that, and Vic Fangio, okay. That's how I feel about it. Okay.
Mike Keenan had a line back in the day that he'd rather need a leash than a cattle prod. And that sort of plays to what you're saying, Bob.
Yeah.
If he has to rein somebody in, get that leash, he's got it. He would rather not have to have a cattle prod where he's got to be kicking somebody's backside to get them to work hard. And he's never been painted as a malingerer, a not hard worker, and his talent it's definable. You can see it. But to me, It is a move in the right direction. It's a positive move, and we asked for an investment, Pat, and we got it. I mean, we asked for somebody to come in here. Now I would expect the draft will give us another one.
I'll tell you, like, some fans just love to wake up and LOL their ass off and complain anytime their team does anything. Like, yeah, everything you said's correct. And I got a text from a buddy of mine who's a Bucks fan. It was like, slow your roll a little bit. And I had to remind him.
What was your role, by the way? You were just like, you said competent.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know if people can't read. It is difficult. It took me a while, okay? Hooked on phonics is the thing. But
you've been good in the past year, though.
Yeah, and I have improved slowly. Cat in the Hat got me, but I got through it. I don't know. I don't know what people wanted and people expected. The linebacker market had quickly, dried up. They didn't sign Patrick Queen. There weren't a lot of guys out there. Like, yes, give me this over the $1.5 million one-year deal that they've been doing for the past 10 years, where we sit there and in July we're bored and we go, actually this guy could be pretty good, and then the game gets played and we realize he sucks. Like, we wanted a linebacker. They got a linebacker and we're complaining about it.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me. But hey, a lot of the Twitterverse does not. So. Hey, Fanatic Friday is presented by Pump Man Philly. I'm pumped. Devin White's here. There's an early pump. For 24/7 emergency repair or pump replacement, count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. So we had on the Fanatic last night, we had a Sixers loss, and the Sixers hung around. I mean, leading after one, leading after two, leading after three. I was optimistic because sometimes Doc Rivers' teams don't finish strong, but they did last night.
Yeah, it was just a case of talent won out. Talent took over. The Sixers tried. They played hard. You saw some good things. Tobias Harris actually showed up a little bit in that game, which was good for them. It's just, they just don't have – I don't really have rhyme or reason for why I said it before, but I said you just can't rely on a guy like Tyrese Maxey to carry you offensively. Like, a guy at that position, it's really, really tough. You need at least a 1A if he's your one, and they just don't have it. So good effort. That's a tough place to go play and win against a tough team, obviously. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to do what he does. And, now, okay, you take a deep breath and what? You get Boston. Like, this just doesn't get easier.
It's relentless.
Yeah, and it's it could be a rough couple weeks. As we know, the Flyers have a really tough schedule ahead of them. They get spanked last night,
and they did get spanked.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough little ride here for your Sixers and Flyers. I'm in fear of.
Last 22, you're talking around a third of the season. Sixers 7-15 after starting out 29-15.
Yeah.
And right now they're 36-30.
28-6 with Joel Embiid, so do the math without him.
Yeah, it is a rough one there. Flyers lose last night, and Sam Urson, a little problem early, Pat, again, sort of like in Tampa the other night. I worry about the wall that people talk about with the goaltender. The amount that he's played, the amount of time they've been leaning on him.
I wanted it. He's played the amount of games at this point that he played last year in the AHL, so I just don't think he's anything to write home about. I think you're going to get games like this. I don't think it has anything to do with like wear and tear. I just think he's a mediocre goaltender.
And Sandstrom's not it's one of the reasons why I wanted a veteran option. I wish that they had been able to find a veteran option goaltender to back him up.
Probably too expensive.
Yeah, and they just decided it wasn't worth that investment right now.
No, it's not. I mean, if you make the playoffs, which I think we're all in lockstep at this point, they're probably going to. That's all that really matters. You get that experience. So, but yeah, I mean, look, Toronto's offense is incredible.
Yes,
they put up goals. They're paid to put up goals. They did that.
6-game gauntlet left. 6 games in the gauntlet of their schedule left. They lose last night to Toronto. That includes a trip to Boston this weekend. It's going to be a home and home with Boston coming up in the next 6 games. You got Florida coming in here for some revenge. You got to go to the Rangers. You got to go to Carolina. It is a brutal stretch. But again, final 9 games, you play one team better than you in the standings, so they should be able to hopefully hold on there. I know they saw 3 sticks broken in one shift for the Flyers last night. My buddy Joe sent in the text. He was down there last night. He goes, I've never seen 3 players break their sticks all at the same time on one shift.
They don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't.
Yeah, right.
and then you got to pay for them. So
Well, they don't.
yeah, they don't.
Yeah,
they're lucky that they
those
don't.
bastards get them for free.
So it appears that Saquon Barkley's happy to be here. And also, too, what's the latest on where Howie may be making some moves? We'll get to that coming up. John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
thefanatic.com.
6 a.m. sponsor is Bradford White Water Heaters. Bradford White is here for the pro. And lots of chatter yesterday on the Fanatic regarding free agency, where the Eagles are at. And one of the guests was Andrew Brandt. And Andrew, one of the best legal minds talking NFL football, that joined the best show ever yesterday afternoon. And he was asked about whether the Eagles were going to be disciplined or not regarding the tampering investigation that reportedly will now be launched into the Saquon Barkley signing. And this is what Andrew had to say.
No. I think that, they're talking about with Cousins in Atlanta, too. I just think now. I mean, listen, if the NFL is really going to get into that, as you said, as everyone says, they could find that with every team. Now, as I said, there's always going to be cover, because if it is teams talking to agents and it's before the legal tampering period, you can always talk about something else. And unless someone's going to turn you in. Now, who has motivation to turn you in? It's never going to be the player. It's never going to be the agent. It's never going to be the team. I guess it could be some competitive agent, because that's a cutthroat business. But that's going to be so rare. I think I even saw in that notice today on the news about standard procedure for the league, which basically means, I don't know, calling a team and saying, stop this. If there's something going on, we don't want to know. Whatever it may be, something like that.
I do believe it happened. I think I do. Because I don't know where it would be gotten that James Franklin would hear that Howie talked to Saquon unless he heard it from Saquon. Like, I just don't. So I sort of believe it happened because he said it on Tuesday. He talked to Saquon, and it may just be a slip of the tongue, or it could be a misinterpretation of what he was told. But overall, it's clear from Andrew Brandt there, everybody does it. And Kirk Cousins talked about it at his press conference. Talked about talking to the lead athletic trainer and talking to the head of public relations on the day before, which was not allowed either.
We talked about it yesterday when we said, yeah, well, I'm sure it happens all the time. You know, it whether you go through agents, whether you're, I don't know, somehow getting involved. Two things about what Brandt said. One is, yeah, I do agree that if you investigated every team, you'd probably find something. But the other one is, he said, who would turn in? Like, who's turning who in? Well, didn't the Eagles turn in the Arizona Cardinals?
And they did.
I mean, that's who turns you in. Like, maybe the New York Giants. And maybe they're looking for compensation. I mean, I think that's pretty clear.
And if I'm the Giants, I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming the Giants.
No, but if you can help your team, if you're the Giants and you say, oh, they did that, and the Eagles turned in Arizona and got, what did they get, a fifth-round pick, a third round?
It was a third.
Well,
it was a swap
thirds.
of the third.
Swap of the third. Well, if you can get some kind of an advantage, hell yeah, I'm the New York Giants calling the league and saying, oh, yeah, they definitely talked to him. So
they
what's in it
tampered
for
with
us?
our player.
What's in it for us?
Yes.
Sure.
It was great, though. Saquon Barkley finally had a chance to speak for himself. And he sounds really, really excited to be here, but he has a very, very measured response in the way he handles it. And one of the things that Saquon takes great pride in, and you heard the press conference right here on 97.5 The Fanatic, is the idea that finally, again, the Eagles have a 3-down back.
I pride myself in that. Just looking at the history of all the great running backs, all of them were able to do that. So I pride myself in that, and that's something I know that I can continue to improve. And whether it's running the ball in between tackles, outside of tackles, catching the ball, pass blocking, all those things that really make you every down back is something I want to continue to get better at, and I'm going to. Best
pass blocking back of the past decade in the NFL is Saquon Barkley now. And that's got to make Jalen Hurts feel a lot more comfortable in passing situations, knowing that this guy takes immense pride in that being as big a part of his game as running the football and catching the football.
Yeah, you hope so. You hope that Jalen Hurts can be more comfortable back there than he was last year, because we did see too many times that it seemed like he had a good pocket around him, and for some reason he left it. There's two sides of it. Did you pay Saquon Barkley to stay in and block? Like people look at it that way. But when you have, a blitzing linebacker coming through a gap and the running back has to pick him up, you feel a hell of a lot better with him picking him up than the numbers tell you a lot of other people, pretty much nobody else. Those analytical numbers that came out that said he's the third best, over 100 rushes and picking up blitzes and stuff like that. Good. Okay, good. Any numbers that want to tell you that a guy's good at something, great. Third down, is he in there? Is he blocking? And you also put in Kenny Gainwell, and Gainwell comes out of the backfield. All right, he can catch a pass. So, it's going to be interesting to see the versatility of him, how it's displayed by this Eagles team. Because if there's been one thing offensively that I think has frustrated all of us over the last few years, it's the way they use their running backs.
And one thing I've noticed, too, is that sometimes in New York, Saquon he was lining up as a slot receiver, which is another weapon that the Eagles have truly not had out of the running back position. They didn't use, and they did use pass catcher enough last year for DeAndre Swift.
No, and another thing about
we thought that was going to be a part of it.
Yeah, it really worries you about the coaching stuff. And now I know they have new coordinators and all, but we heard in training camp last year that they were lining DeAndre Swift up with the wide receivers and have him practicing routes. And you had Kenny Gainwell number 1 in the backfield after all of training camp. Like, what the heck were they seeing? So that still bothers me. Like, just the egregious talent evaluation or lack thereof that came out of training camp last year.
One of the things that Saquon Barkley obviously is impressed with is the quarterback and his mindset to the game.
Oh, yeah, watch him from afar. I know how a special player he is. I know how talented a player he is. But just talking to him, there's a mentality he has, the mindset that he has. And, it's not just something that you see on the outside. You talk to everybody in this building. I think they will all say similar things, say the same things. Obviously, he can run the ball pretty well, but just a mindset. I'm big in that. The mindset that he has, and that's a guy that you want to go out there and play for.
I didn't like obviously, he can run the ball very well. He didn't talk about him as a passer. I like my quarterback talked about more as a passer.
Well, he's a running back, so that's his specialty.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it seems like there is a fit there. When you hear Saquon Barkley talk, he sounds a little bit, Pat, like he may have also done the Dick's Sporting Goods trip, talking some of the cliches that you hear on the T-shirts.
Yeah, I
got some of that.
A little bit. I didn't really check out the press conference because I figured it would be a lot of that. Oh, I'm excited to be here.
And he is.
I bet you are excited to be. I'd be excited to be in Kabul, Afghanistan, if I was getting paid how much money he's getting paid. So, look, as long as he ends up being the 3-down back that he talks about being, then that's all I care about. He can speak in fortune cookie wisdom all he wants, but he would be the most talented running back that we've had since LaShawn?
I would think so. I don't think there's even a question of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to rack my brain if there was anybody in between, but no. They didn't have a 3-down running back last year, and what you guys talked about with DeAndre Swift in the passing game is so true. And I do think that DeAndre Swift would have been more implemented in the passing game with Kellen Moore, but now with Saquon Barkley, there's no excuse because he's a do-it-all back. And it's blocking. Yeah, if I was Jalen Hurts, I'd be very excited right now. Not like Kenny Gainwell was horrible at it, but
no.
There's a huge upgrade in the blocking with Saquon Barkley.
He's also excited to be an Eagle, and that's something that really came across when you heard him speak.
When it came to my attention that the Eagles were one of the teams that were interested in me, I definitely got excited about it. We got everything wrapped up and, just put, my signature to the paper. But from watching from afar, everything that they're about, the culture here, the fans here, definitely got super excited about it, and I'm just happy to be a part of this organization. I'm ready to go.
It's got to make Giant fans a little pissed off when they hear that.
Sorry.
Him talking about the culture here and seeing it from afar and wanting to be a part of it.
He had a good line that stuck out with me when I heard it yesterday. Was that, I'm coming to a team that was 11-6 last year and they're pissed off.
That's not good enough.
He's saying that like I would love to have been 11-6 at some point. So he is. He's coming into something different. That wasn't acceptable last year, and this probably is an organization where players come to and they say, man, the expectations from the fans, from the city, from the team, the organization as a whole are probably higher from no matter where they came from, pretty much.
If you'd like to comment on the acquisition of Devin White, which we discussed at length in the first segment of the show, you can at 610-632-0975. And the question I want to ask you is what did people want? Because especially if you're somebody who's not pleased with the signing, I want to know what you wanted. Because honestly, the Patrick Queen price, I understand why the Eagles passed at that dollar amount. And there are many who believe that Roquan Smith allowed him to eat. So the Patrick Queen's numbers and production and everything, that Baltimore thinks they can get it by putting somebody else younger and cheaper next to Roquan Smith because he's that kind of player. But it's very similar to what you were asking, Pat. What would people want? I mean, everybody was clamoring for a veteran investment. You got to find one at a good price when you're investing all over the board. You're trying to improve your defense, and you're better today than you were. And that's bottom line. You are better than when you had Nicholas Morrow. If you just say Nicholas Morrow for him, you're better.
Yeah, Zach Bond, you're better. I don't understand the mentality sometimes over Eagles fans that watch Alex Singleton start at linebacker for this team and Nate Gary, and we're gonna like poo-poo Devin White. And not, if you're making him out to be this, Jeremiah Trotter-esque linebacker, he's not that, and I think we all know that. But you can also get excited over the fact that they just signed anybody who can play linebacker, and you're not going to be going to a season with Nate Gary 2.0 or starting Zach Bond at linebacker or some 7th-round pick that they're going to try to convince you is a viable option. Ben Van Sumeren. Yeah, I'm sorry, Philadelphia. I'm a little more excited about Devin White than the idea of Ben Van Sumeren starting games for this team.
That's not even a real name. I know it's the long-haired kid from Miami, but that's not even a real name, is it? I mean,
no, it's Michigan State. It's undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
They're very high on him.
Yeah. We'll find out how that shakes out. Oh, by the way, yesterday's rabbit hole. After I I decided. Bob was like, "You're going to get in love with this Kellen Moore. You're going to love him. You're going to love him. You're falling in love with him." So yesterday I went down I just decided to do the Jeremiah Trotter Jr. rabbit hole. And my rabbit hole told me 3rd day pick. Nothing before the 3rd day. He's small. He's really small.
But
and you don't need another.
Are that?
Yeah,
anymore,
but he gets run over a bit. By now, if the big guys are doing their job up front, it's fine. But I think if you're talking about a 3rd day pick, I'm in on it. I'm not in on it before then.
Yeah, I
need somebody bigger, stronger, faster.
If the big boys up front are getting, notice how I didn't say fatties.
I like that.
Yeah, because Mr. Eats would have gotten mad at me. But if the guys up front are doing their job and clogging things, sure. Now you have a Nakobe Dean and a Devin White who have been described as guys that can pursue and get to where they want to go. Have they shown that lately? Well, Nakobe Dean, not at all. Devin White has fallen off. So, no matter what, you have to have the big guys up front doing their job. Now you have 2 linebackers that have the reputation, or have the hope, I should say, of being able to pursue. We'll see how it happens. Nakobe Dean, I was the same way last year. The anointment of it, I just don't understand, really. And now Devin White, glad that there's nothing physically, it seems, wrong with him. But can you reel him in to be a linebacker that you need to play here?
I was more positive on Nakobe Dean last offseason. And again, it's not fair. It's an injury situation. But when you can't deliver in either of your first 2 years, you're not able to either force them the first year to make way for you on the field. They weren't finding, and there were veterans in here in a Super Bowl season that were causing you to be kept on the bench. But when I expect to know more going into year 3, and we just do not. We do not know.
And what do the coaches know? That's even more important. Like when they anointed him last year, the talking point that I had with you was, what do they have to go on with this? They had him last year. They didn't play him in his rookie year. Limited time, and then boom, here you go. You're a starter. Here's the green dot. You call the defenses. We question that. Then he gets hurt. So what really do they have to go on?
My theory is, Kirby Smart talked about it at the University of Georgia. One of the most relentless workers in the film room. One of the smartest players he ever coached. Electrical engineering degree, I believe it was, that was achieved in less time than the average student who doesn't play football gets it. So to me, I think it's the intelligence factor. It's the relentless work factor. But honestly, if I don't see it on the field, I'm always going to be skeptical till I see it on an NFL field. I saw it on an SEC field and was very impressed. But I got to see it on an NFL field. And I hope he stays healthy. So we'll have more on that in the course of the show today. The Fanatics Knockout Tournament's coming up. The Sixers take on the Clippers coming up on Wednesday, March 27th. And after the game, you're going to head down to the court to battle your favorite Fanatic hosts in a game of knockout. So you can visit 975thefanatic.com for complete details if you don't have a chance to call in to get a chance to win by being one of our online contestants. So if you would like to go see the Sixers take on the Clippers and play knockout on March 27th, call us now, 215-263-0975. A 6 a.m. hour selection today for our early risers. It's all presented by Ferguson HVAC, your Delaware Valley Train Heating and Air Conditioning distributor. Visit train.com to find a dealer near you. So Brendan will open up the phone lines after we let the YouTube audience and the streaming audience catch up at 215-263-0975. You may be today's contestant, lucky contestant for the game of knockout. And Jenna's coming, right? Because she's ruthless.
Yeah, she'll be there.
She's ruthless at it.
Yeah, she wants to get right behind. She did it reveal to me yesterday before she went away for the weekend. She revealed to me yesterday that now that she can no longer eliminate one Jamie Lynch, which she did 2 years in a row, she did allow me to know who the person here at the station is that she wants to eliminate.
Okay, I'm wondering who it could be. I'm thinking I know who. Pat, do you have a theory?
Connor.
That's who I have a theory too. I'm thinking it's not Connor.
No, I'm looking at him right now.
Pat
Come on,
Egan?
man.
Oh, yeah.
What did I do to her?
She wants Egan. I don't know. You guys have a relationship that I don't quite understand, but it
Neither
makes
do
me
I.
laugh.
I don't understand
Did
it
you guys do something on Instagram the other day? She told me or something.
She wished me happy birthday.
Oh, yeah,
That's nice.
That was nice of her. Yeah,
Yeah.
We're mending fences.
No, she does. She loves Pat, but yeah, she's.
You think she's going after Pat?
Oh, she told me, yeah.
That's
well,
fine.
first she said, "Are you playing, Dad?" And I said, "I don't know. I might." She goes, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be near you. So I think Pat's my target this year."
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, people just they gravitate towards me, especially
I
in
agree.
basketball competition.
You're like a magnet.
Yeah.
You're a human magnet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Well, I think Martin Roach is our winner this morning.
Hey, way to go, Marty.
I think it's one of Havertown's favorite bartenders, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah?
If that is the same Martin Roach, I think it is so Bob, you and him will have something to chat about. You guys will be right up each other's alley on that one, which is great. So that's good. He's a good bartender. You love talking sports with a good bartender is a winning proposition.
Oh, God, yeah. Talking to a bartender's a winning proposition. Means you're at a bar. I was asked to bartend last night.
What?
So,
what are you talking about?
One of my best friends, Glenn, he calls me and we're just talking or whatever. And then he says, "Oh, by the way, what do you got, such and such day?" I said, "I don't know why. What's up?" He goes, "Well, we're having a family reunion." And he's one of 9. And he said, and my oldest sister, she's like, "Oh, you got to get Bobby Cooney to come." And he's like, "All right, yeah." She goes, "Tell him to bartend. That way it'll give him a reason to be there." And I was like,
What?
"Yeah, I don't really bartend." He goes, "My family just drinks whiskey and beer, so you should be all right."
Oh, you could do that.
I don't want to bartend.
Yeah, I know. You just want to go to the
and
party. Would be fun there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit.
I don't know what that's about. Hiring me, Pat.
We're going to see my little cousin Coco tonight in her play at school.
Oh yeah.
So it's I think it's the what's the Ariel one, Pat?
Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid.
John Wick.
I think it's Little Mermaid Jr. It's not John Wick Jr. Little Mermaid Jr. So we're going to see Coco tonight. In fact, Liv is coming back in. I'm going to go pick her up afterwards today, and she wants to come see her little cousin in her show. So we're going out tonight. So Chief Dan and Shell, they'll be seeing their granddaughter out there, and I'm sure her parents will be proud. We're looking forward to it. All right, we got a lot coming for you on the show today, and we hope you'll stick around for everything we've got going on. But next up, Bob has a question for Phillies fans. As we are now, less than 2 weeks, Pat, check your pulse, less than 2 weeks
Not there.
from the opener, and he's not there yet. But he may be after the next segment. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic.
station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
We're now less than 2 weeks from the Phillies opener. 13 days away. And a lot of promising things coming out of Clearwater. Mainly good health, and let's hope that continues. That would be something that would be a real good thing. But, Bob, nothing is a guarantee in life, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. There's nothing guaranteed.
No.
You can look great on paper, and you don't necessarily are not necessarily going to be able to deliver on that. But the guarantees you wanted to talk about with the guarantees for the 2024 Phillies.
Well, so, you look at the team. You kind of stirred this in my head, John, this week when you were talking about, it's been awfully quiet. And that's a good thing because
Love quiet.
no big talks of injury, no big talks of disgruntled players or anything like that. It's kind of like it's a business. Let's get in, get our work done. We are a playoff team. We are a team that could have been in 2 straight World Series. So I ask you, if you guys look at this Phillies team and kind of look at the season ahead, what's a guarantee you can give me? Give me a guarantee of this Philadelphia Phillies team going into the season.
That you can absolutely take statistics of Bryce Harper and pencil them in across the board. Bryce Harper is not going to give you a 2023 Trey Turner type season ever. So whatever he's going to be, now could he end up with an injury? Anybody can get injured. But when he plays, you can pencil in the numbers as a Philly that Bryce Harper is going to give you. And to me, that is complete dependability. There's nobody who you should feel more dependent about that you can write in Sharpie what you expect out of the guy.
Give me a guarantee on him this year. Give me numbers guaranteed, because we did this the week you were out. We did some predictions. All right, batting average for Bryce Harper.
295 and above.
Okay, home runs.
30 and above.
RBI.
I'm going to say if he plays the full season, 100 and above.
All right. I didn't save our predictions from last week, Pat. I
like that. I mean, that's how I would feel. I think he's the guy that you're not going to. I know for a fact, because Bryce Harper's never done it. He is not going to ever dial up a Trey Turner type season from last year. And by the way, I don't think Trey Turner's going to dial up another one this year. But I know I don't have to worry about that with Bryce Harper.
How about you, Pat? Guarantee me something from this Phillies team for this coming year that you can say it now, and then come the end of November, you can say, yep, there it was.
Kyle Schwarber will be hitting leadoff. Guaranteed.
Wow. You really went out on a limb there.
Yeah, really.
Well, okay. I mean, I could sit there and, project stats and stuff, but
okay.
As John said, anyone can get injured. So if you're talking guarantees,
that could be your guarantee.
Well, don't assume injury.
I guarantee he's going to hit leadoff. He's going to. It's going to frustrate the hell out of me. And we're going to second guess it. And they're still going to win. There's my guarantee.
Okay. I'm going to guarantee an under 4 ERA for Aaron Nola.
Oh, I take that right now.
Oh, really?
I would.
Wow, I thought I was going out on a limb there.
No, I would. I believe Aaron Nola's going to have another really fairly solid year where 2 out of 3 times he takes to the mound, he is very, very dependable. How about this? Maybe even 3 out of 4 times he takes to the mound.
He better have a sub-4 ERA with that price tag.
Yes, he should. But I'm also a believer that he's ready to deliver on that.
Well, it's the every other year.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it.
Good year coming up.
Can you guarantee Schwarber's going to hit more than 40 home runs?
Yeah.
How comfortable you feel in that?
I feel very comfortable.
I feel very comfortable with that. Again, we assume you can't assume injury on anybody.
No, we're not
so
assuming
you just
injury.
say, so absolutely I can believe that.
Can you guarantee that Trey Turner will hit above 290?
No.
I'll go yeah.
I think I'm a yeah, too.
Guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's in for that kind of. I think he returns to being normal Trey Turner.
I think he's going to be a much better version of Trey Turner, for the whole year. I don't know if I'm hoping we haven't seen any signs of potential decline. I'm hoping.
Can you guarantee that combined doubles and home runs, Nick Castellanos is going to have more than 60?
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
I feel good. I feel good on that one.
All right.
I feel good on that. And now his milk and wine statement really was interesting.
I didn't hear that. What did
Oh,
he
you
say?
didn't hear it?
No.
He said that older players, guys, when they get into their 30s, they age one of two ways. They either age like milk or they age like wine. That milk, they start spoiling quickly. Or, like wine, they can actually get more crafty and maybe potentially better with age.
Oh, that's good. That's a good
And
one.
I do believe Nick Castellanos.
I'm milk.
You are milk?
Yeah, I'm whole milk.
I believe Nick Castellanos is a guy who appears to be cares about his conditioning.
Yeah.
Cares about his
Looks good.
I love the fact that in his second year as a Philly, I have great respect for the fact that he so improved his defense. It's obvious that when he puts his mind to something, he can get out there and fix it. He had a much better year at the plate. And the disaster that ended last year, the worst performance ever by a player in a playoff run in that National League Championship Series, was historic. But I can't forget the fact that his performance over the course of 162 helped to get them there. And I so respect the way his defense improved, because rarely do you see a guy that later on in their career, they take a huge jump defensively, and he did. That only comes from hard work, study, and want to. And he wants to.
Guarantee that Johan Rojas plays 120-plus games.
No.
Can't do that.
No.
Okay.
I
All
can't.
right.
I can't, and I wish I could.
No, I don't mind that. That's fine.
I wish I could, though, because I think he should play 120 games on this team, and he should be the guy batting last in the batting order, and they should let him find his way at the major league level, period.
Guarantee that Alec Boehm hits more than 23 home runs.
No.
I'll guarantee it.
You will.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think
That next little jump. You're saying that
yeah,
next incremental little jump.
Yeah, not massive, but
Okay.
yeah, I think over 23.
Guarantee that Bryson Stott has more than 180 hits.
I will.
I'll guarantee that.
No.
Yeah,
No?
I like that one.
I'm gonna go no. I think he gets on
Because
base, but
they don't play him enough, you think? Or what is it, Pat?
that's a lot. 180 is a lot. So he's got great plate discipline. I could see it. I just can't guarantee it.
Okay.
Guarantee JT Real Muto hits better than 260.
No.
Yeah, I can't do that one either.
Oof.
Well, I mean, it's not. But again, though, he could be JT Real Muto could hit 255, and it could be a really productive 255.
Sure, and look, they might have him from all indications right now, it looks like they're going to bat him fourth. So what do
That
you
could
want
be a
from a four-hole
productive
hitter? Yeah,
255.
like, it could be sacrifice flies. He could be looking for home runs, leading off an inning, whatever. It could be a productive 265. I don't have any concerns about him. Guarantee that he catches more than 125 games.
Yes.
No, I guarantee. Yeah.
130.
Yeah.
I mean, last year
I think
was
he went 133 last year or something as a catcher.
Yeah, he's a. I worry though. I worry very much with him whether the tread on the tires is starting to show, and I think it's because of all the innings caught. Because his production at the plate has consistently, he's been on a little bit of a decline. Not a little bit of a decline. It's a 4-year sort of productivity decline. It's one step, and I hope it isn't a drop off a cliff that comes up for him.
Yeah, I have confidence in him. He takes care of himself. You talked about Castellanos.
Absolutely.
I read a story a couple of weeks ago about how Real Muto has changed up what he did. He was a heavy weightlifter during the offseason. Well, now he's learned to calm that down a little bit.
Doing plyometrics, I think they said. Like he's doing a lot of that.
But he's very, very in tune with himself. And the fact that, you're throwing him back there 135 games.
I can't imagine.
That's unbelievable. And you don't really, at the end of a season, playoffs, whatever, you don't see the wear and tear on him. And that's a good thing. All right. What was the other one I was going to go? Oh, Wheeler. Guarantee ERA under 3.35.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Right away.
Yes.
Okay.
Under 335, yes. And by the way, I don't think under 335 for him and under 4 for Nola is asking a lot of either one of them. You know what I mean?
But Nola is that up and down guy, and you can just see a 4.2 sometimes, and like last year. Wheeler, under 3.35 in this day and age is a good ERA, but that I probably should have made that a little bit lower. Guarantee that someone in that Phillies bullpen will have more than 25 saves.
No.
Okay, you're talking
because I think they're going to do
committee.
Yeah, they're going to do. I wouldn't be shocked if the guy who's closing out games in August, September, and October is not on the roster. That they go and get a proven closer this time around for this postseason run. It hasn't worked 2 years in a row. It has not worked. This approach hasn't gotten it done. I hope that Dave Dombrowski will say this time around, if there's a guy available, you know what, let's try something a little bit different. Howie Roseman, we praised him. Pat praised him the other day, admitting a mistake with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, letting him go last year, and how that apart, even though there was blame on both sides. That, to me, Dave Dombrowski's a great general manager. He's a brilliant guy at building a roster. But I hope that they get away from this and it comes together.
See, I think that they have like 3 or 4 guys that can be closers if they put them in that spot. So therefore, if I have a hole in the bullpen, I don't know if I need a closer, like, a definitive closer. But you could be right. Maybe that's the way they go.
And it's a choice on my part. You may believe as a fan that you don't. I do. It's just a preference. I don't like the who's going to be the closer at this time. By the way, I don't mind using a closer in a postseason game in a critical spot in the 8th inning. Like going to your closer in the 8th, if the heart of the order's coming up and you're trying to close out a game, I don't mind that strategy where you maneuver around your closer and don't use him typically in the 9th if he's a guy that is used to that. But
if it's a guy that's used to that, yeah.
Yes, if he's a guy used to it.
Look, I would love to have a closer, a definitive closer. And I'm not saying that, you're wrong if they go get one. What I'm saying is I think you have that guy already on your roster if you so choose to anoint him.
Which one do you think it is?
Well, I think
if I said to you right now, who's closing out games in August, September, and October for this team?
I think it's among some people. I think it's among Alvarado. I think it's among Sir Anthony. And I think they're going to look at this Kirkering kid with nasty stuff. And if he's only pitched not even a half a year in Major League Baseball. If he shows like, okay, this kid does have it, maybe that's a kid you anoint. But I think of the 3 of them, if they so choose, you might have a closer already on this this roster. Yeah.
I just wish, though, if I said to you right now, who do you think it would be from that cluster of guys?
I think
in August, September, October.
I think they want it to be Sir Anthony because Alvarado being a lefty, I think they want to use that situationally.
What about you, Pat? If Bob's scenario is true, that the closer who will close out August, September, October is already on the roster, who do you think it'll be?
I think it'll still be Alvarado, but I do think they'll go by a committee for the majority of the season.
Are you anti-committee like
Yeah,
me?
I hate it. I loathe committee.
I don't like it either.
Yeah, I want
because I don't tend to like committees. By in any way, shape, or form do I tend to like committees in any walk of life, like homeowners associations, things like that. I always think when too many people are involved, it weakens the mission getting accomplished.
Yeah, it's funny because if we look at the Phillies' playoff runs and see what Rob Thompson did successfully in getting a team that wasn't supposed to do much to a World Series in 22, and then last year it was using them situationally.
Yes.
It was using Alvarado in the 5th or 6th inning because he's going against lefties. So I don't mind that chess game all the time. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about closers. I'm not really positive on that.
Let's see what Marty has to say. Marty, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Hey, what's up, boys? How you guys doing?
Good, buddy.
Hey, so I just dropped my son off at school, your buddy Justin, and he was saying that Stott might be 285, it may be 15 at 85.
Like 15 home runs, 85 runs batted in?
Yeah.
I could see that.
85's a lot.
85's a lot for what
For
I think they're
stock.
going to ask him. 15. If you said 15.75, I think I may buy.
Well, well, you know how a 10-year-old thinks, but I'm like 75, 85 too. But you say, yeah, he's going to guarantee a grand slam as well. But I was listening to how you guys were talking about Jay maybe batting 255 and a productive 255.
Well, he was 252 last year, so I'm hoping he could get to 255.
Yeah, but what do you think about him just between Memorial Day and Labor Day being like maybe putting Schwarber in left and having JT as a DH? Not every game.
Yeah, but you don't have it.
Like,
You don't have They don't have a viable backup catcher.
No. I'm not saying every day. I'm just saying like the day before he goes on day before day off he does a DH game.
Okay, but the thing is, if you do that, like you said, Memorial Day to Labor Day, so you're talking about that is like 14 weeks. That's about what he does get. That's about what we should expect.
Yeah, I was just more thinking like the hotter days he could still play. Maybe come in the ninth as the catcher, like just something to get him off his feet because he's. I heard you guys saying that he went from heavy lifting to like light cardio or something like that.
That's I heard it's plyometrics, buddy. Thanks, buddy. Plyometrics, all that flexibility stuff, like sort of like a hybrid yoga stretching.
Yeah.
Which is he
Good
looks
on
like he's in amazing shape anyway.
Yeah,
for a
he's,
big
he's
dude,
an unbelievable athlete, as we've heard. He was a wrestler, football player.
Star quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
In
Won a couple
Oklahoma
state
where it
titles.
matters.
Yeah.
Yes.
But as soon as Marty said Schwarber and left and Real Muto DHing, like that better be a 10-8 win because you're not having much defense in left field or at catcher, and you're not hitting the ball from catcher, and you're taking Bryce Harper out of the lineup.
I'd have it more.
Or not Bryce Harper. He said DH for JT. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, look, that's the good thing about this Phillies lineup is the versatility of it. And, yeah, for all the times you don't want to see Schwarber in left, you can do it. And if you do it, you could rest a Harper and put a Real Muto at first and have Harper DH. Like there's a lot of different things you
helps
can do.
a lot with
yeah,
this
Merrifield too.
Like,
you could throw out there.
You don't have to put Schwarber in left.
Yeah, we forget that Merrifield was an all-star last year.
And he can play infield and outfield.
Exactly.
So it gives you a lot of flexibility.
It does.
I'm telling you, I am so optimistic on this Phillies club. But the 89.5 number, the 90.5 number scares me.
All right, Garen.
The experts, and it's all across sports books. It's not just my BetPark sportsbook app. It's all across them. 90.5's like the lid. And it just does surprise me because that's a weird number to be sitting on. They don't expect the Phillies to be that improved over 162. And I do. I do think this is a year when the last 2 years, you've missed Bryce Harper for 2 months and a week. So really you missed him for like 10 weeks, 9 weeks. I think that Bryce Harper production is worth at least 3 or 4 wins. At least 3 or 4 wins in that time.
Yeah, and Trey Turner you didn't really have for the first half of last season. I don't see that happening
I don't
again.
either.
And you have a hopefully satisfied Aaron Nola with a new contract and all. Wheeler with a new contract, what he wanted to be. I still can't believe that Snell and Montgomery are out there.
I still can't believe that, and I wasn't here for it. You guys were chatting about it last week when I was in the islands. I can't believe they got Wheeler for what they got him for.
Yeah, and he went to them and said, "Look, I don't want 5 years. I only want 3."
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And when I'm reading that and hearing that, I'm going, it doesn't make sense, except the fact that he is so happy to be here. And he sees this window of opportunity with the Phillies.
Yeah, it seems like it. And we had the debate whether he took 3 years to say, because after 3 years, I want to take a look at it. He was pretty adamant, and so was his agent in the story I read, that no, they were talking 5 years or something like that. And he said, I only want 3 because that's all I want to pitch.
I like what Pat said before about Wheeler. And you've made this point, Pat, since we started the show. The idea that it might be the greatest free agent. It's one of the greatest free agent signings ever in the city history.
Value-wise,
Unbelievable.
absolutely.
Value-wise, it's amazing.
This is coming from a guy that wasn't a fan of that contract when he signed it, but of what they ended up getting and the extension and all that, when you factor all of it in, he's one of the best free agent signings that we've probably ever seen in Philly. Bryce Harper's got to be up there, but Bryce Harper was paid adequately, I felt like, at the time. I mean, it was a deal, but $25 million. You knew what you were getting in Bryce Harper. I didn't know what I was getting in Zach Wheeler just because they were kind of banking on splits, and he's delivered and then some. He's been incredible. So
He really has been.
I mean, we expected an extension, and I was surprised it was only 3 years, but it's hard to complain about it because I didn't want to go into an offseason like they did with Nola, where you didn't know what was going on. They're moving on. Is there contract talks mid-season? Are they going to wait till the offseason? And that was a nice situation of like, all right, they'll get a deal done. Not really concerned about it.
I love so much that he just wanted to be here so badly that he cuts a great deal like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe when I saw 3.
Yeah, it's a great 1-2 punch. You gave him what he wanted. Now you have 2 happy pitchers at the top of your starters. All right, last one here.
Yes.
Guarantee Kyle Schwarber will hit above 210. Your leadoff hitter.
Yes.
I can't guarantee.
Yes, I'll
that.
guarantee
No,
it.
I will not.
I'll guarantee it. How about this?
Amazing.
Kyle Schwarber will have his best year average-wise as a Philly.
Well,
Batting
what does that
average
mean? That means he's going to hit, what, 225?
I mean, yeah.
Pat, it's called a limb, and I'm really going out on it.
I mean, well, unfortunately,
Hot take alert.
when a guy hits 190, you are going on a limb by saying
Yeah,
225.
197 and 218 so far. So he's got to hit 219 this year, John?
I will bet that. I'm going to if the Bet Parks app had it, I would bet it today. I really do think you're going to see a improved batting average at the plate. How about I'm going to say even approaching 230 by the time it's all said and done.
The last time he had more than 500 at-bats on a team, not with the Phillies, it was 2019 with the Cubs. He hit 250.
Not bad. I don't think he's ever seen 250.
What's his career average, Pat?
I would totally guess.
Yeah.
241.
I'm going 242.
227.
Oh, geez.
And he is your leadoff hitter.
Hey, the 7 a.m. hour is brought to you by the Bet Parks app. I love the Bet Parks app. Sportsbook and casino in one sleek, easy-to-use app. Pennsylvania, Jersey, Ohio, and Maryland. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Rob Motti joined yesterday Andrew Salchunas in middays, and he had an update on Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. Are both staying? Are both going? Stay tuned. John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
5thefanatic.com.
Hopefully you are having a good Friday morning and have a big weekend planned. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic. Fanatic Fridays are presented by Pump Man Philly. There you go. For 24/7 emergency repair or pump replacement, count on Pump Man Philly. The guys to know to fix your flow. It is this warm weather is going to go away a little bit, but it has been really, really nice. These days are nice. Your allergies, though, are killing you because of all your work outside. You sound a little clogged up, but it's because you're outside working in the yard all day.
Well, yeah, but I've never had them this bad this early. And I thought I was maybe getting some, and then I saw on the news a couple of days ago that it said the pollen count is just through the roof.
Really high.
And, yeah, it's usually worse in the morning, which isn't great when you work on the morning show. But, yeah, you hear it when I get in here and when I wake up. It's really bad, and nothing works for me.
Not like you.
There was one, I think I said this
Zyrtec,
before.
you've never tried anything
I've
like that?
tried it. Nothing works. Honest to God. There was one medicine growing up that worked, and it was called ActiFed.
I remember
And
ActiFed.
Yeah, and that worked for me, and then they took it off the shelf.
Wasn't that what they were making meth with?
Yeah, we tried that. Yeah, we messed around with it, but that didn't help my allergies either.
Pat, you didn't know that about him.
Being on meth with a stuffy nose isn't
It was
really
terrible.
good, John.
Breaking Bad was all about
It was Bob Cooney?
Yeah, he was the inspiration for it.
It was a great
Hey,
acting
here comes the
performance.
kid with the ActiFed.
Here's the ActiFed kid. Rob Motti is a fantastic football writer, and you know him here, and also part of the 97.5 The Fanatic alumni. And yesterday he joined Andrew Salchunas and had an opportunity to chat a little bit about what was going on around the Eagles. And one of the questions that everybody, of course, is leaning on right now is Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. Who's staying? Who's going? Could both be leaving? Could both be staying? What's the update, Rob?
I'm not hearing much as of right now, other than this is something that is probably going to be rectified by the time we get to the draft. And it could be one of those the week of the draft, because the Eagles got a lot of picks with those compensations. I just wonder if you look at the surplus of draft picks and Sweat and Reddick and how they can use that maybe to move up to get somebody that they may be targeting in the top 10 or even potentially top 8 of the draft. I certainly think there's going to be a resolution on one of those guys, and I don't see how both are going to be back, that's for sure.
He doesn't see them both being back, but he sees the potential, the idea of moving up the board. That could be.
Does one of those guys get you there? He said top 10?
I don't think. Not when you're taking on the idea that somebody's going to have to pay a huge contract above it.
Yeah.
22 to top 10? No. I don't believe that could be the case. Now, do you package some of your other picks, too?
Maybe, but for what? Like, I mean, what do you get in the top 10? Like, is it, you have so many holes to fill that you're going to get rid of picks to get exactly what? Like, give me a position, a top 10 guy that you say, oh, that's a no-brainer. You got to get it. Yeah, if you move up and get this position in the top 10, go for it.
I don't see the player. Honestly, I don't see the player right now that the Eagles have to be moving into the top 10 for. I just don't. The quarterbacks you have no interest in. The big name wide receivers you would have no interest in.
No.
So, I mean, if you're talking about moving up in the draft, I would think if you could get into the mid-teens, then you're talking about getting a more of an impact player potentially than you'd get at 22. But I don't know anybody's going to want to. Look, Hassan Reddick, and it's no knock. I want Hassan Reddick to be an Eagle. So I'm not saying this with any disregard. He has had the opportunity now for greater than a month to go find a trade. He hasn't found one. He hasn't found somebody willing to pay him his demands. Because if someone was willing to pay him what he was looking to be paid, he'd already have it right now. Somebody say, oh, yeah, sure. We'll pay you that. He's not finding it. So get a deal done with Hassan Reddick, hopefully. And if you want to trade Josh Sweat, I don't know why you feel the need to. I honestly don't. You have him under contract. I want them both back. I hope Rob's wrong on this part.
Well,
and I know he's very well connected, so I'm not saying that he is. I'm hoping that he's wrong.
I can't see it being done. I can't see a package deal of number 22 and one of those edge rushers getting you up into the
top 10. No.
Yeah, and if you do, what are you going for? An offensive tackle? I mean, you can go for the guy Alt out of Notre Dame, which a lot of people really like, who is someone a lot of people really like. The Penn State kid is another one that probably is a top. Both of them are definitely probably top 10s, definitely top 15s. But, like, you're not going for a wide receiver. You're not going for a quarterback. Would an edge rusher excite you that much? Like, are you trading Hassan Reddick and 22 to get a younger, less expensive edge rusher?
Well, here's the deal: is whoever's sitting in that position right now, in that draft spot,
right? Exactly.
They
taking
could draft.
on your edge.
They could draft the cheaper guy.
I just
why do
can't-
they want the older guy that they have to?
It doesn't add up to me.
It doesn't at all to me.
No, no.
Now, do I see somebody? What I was trying to figure out yesterday is who is the contender? Who's the contender that would feel that Hassan Reddick could push them over the top? That they need that. That's the last piece. Like, could a Detroit Lions? Could the Detroit Lions say, we got to get over the top. We got to close things out. And maybe if we had an edge rusher, an extra edge rusher, this is it. I was trying to think of teams that are close. Because if you're going to pay an older guy big money, you expect him to be the missing link. He is the guy that's going to nudge you over the top. I think that's the problem Hassan is having looking for a trade partner. I don't think he's finding teams that believe he's that guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the missing link to winning a championship for some team.
No.
Like who? San Francisco doesn't need it.
No, Detroit just went out and got that
Right.
Davenport to go
So
with.
they don't need
with Hutchinson.
They're not looking at it and saying it's a desperate need. Who's a Cincinnati? Maybe. I mean, but I don't know.
Just don't know.
I don't
Especially when you have, I just don't see it happening. Like I said, my ideal hope, and everybody says it, well, you're not keeping them both. That's obvious. I think that's how Rob ended his statement there. One of them has to go. That's obvious.
I don't think it is.
Is it? I'm trying to talk you guys into this, and I'm trying if Howie.
Well, Pat's
I know
been
Howie's
wishing for it,
listening.
as I am. You know,
Let him play out.
let him stay.
Let it play out. Let's see what happens.
I don't understand. Like, we have to get rid of both of them.
We don't.
You don't have to.
You
Let's
don't
just
have
keep
to.
both of them because you don't have a lot of depth there. I didn't see enough of Nolan Smith last year to go, all right, he's the guy.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're just kind of wishing and hoping at that point. So, yeah, keep both. If you're not getting the offer you want, keep both.
Well, that's one of the questions right now that is out there is, what about Nolan Smith? What kind of jump do they think he's going to be able to make? And is Nakobe Dean going to be an answer at middle linebacker? Rob had this to share.
Nolan Smith, to me, has the tools and the skills and the talent. He's got to get that opportunity. He's got to go out there and live up to his first-round status. I don't think that the linebacker position still is going to be addressed to the Philadelphia Eagles fans' liking. They're counting on Nakobe Dean, man. They're counting on him to come back, and we'll see what he can do. If this kid's healthy, and that's been a problem. But last year, it was a foot issue that was caused. He said it was the cleats. Nike no longer manufactured them. When he comes back, he's going to wear the same cleats that they still had at Georgia for him. So maybe that helps. I don't know. But he's got to live up to his billing, too, as well.
Cleatsgate. When I hear that makes my head sort of just swim. Like, it's the cleats.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it's the cleats.
No. Hopefully
I'm
that
not
was
buying.
a joke.
I'm hoping that that's not the case.
No, yeah,
it's the cleats. You know, I got to go back to the cleats I wore in college.
Yeah.
I don't even like hearing that.
It could have been a joke. It could have been a brush off line that maybe somebody took too seriously or something. Yeah, I'm anxious on Nolan Smith though, and Pat was on it last year. I don't know how many times when we were doing pregames and all, and Pat was like, I just don't understand, why don't they give Nolan Smith a chance? Not even a chance. And then we come in on Mondays with our playbook and see that he got 10 snaps, 8 snaps, and it's like, and then they come out after the season and say, yeah, we should have played them more. Well, why should that ever be? Why should that ever be the case? Why are we idiots sitting here saying that? And at the end, it takes to the end of the season for the coaching staff to be like, yeah, you know what? Now I can understand if Swift, if Sweat and Reddick were getting like 13 sacks apiece, and you needed them in there every play. They weren't. No, they were not. No, and then you put Smith in there, and you're dropping him back into coverage also. And guess what? The times you dropped him back into coverage, added to the times you dropped Hassan Reddick back into coverage, I never saw one of them make a play when they were dropped back in coverage. Not once. Don't remember a tackle.
Not that I can think of.
Don't remember a receiver catching a ball. Oh, and he's tackled by Hassan Reddick. Nope, never. So I don't know. I really do get worried, and it started all with this running back situation of the talent evaluation of this coaching staff. Now, it's a revamped coaching staff. I understand that. But, man, like what?
Well, I feel much better about the talent evaluation of a coaching staff that has Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore as the coordinators.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel so much better going into the year with that. A established group. And last year you went 2 inexperienced guys. And it really backfired in a big way. But I think that Moore potentially could have exposed the head coach even than it exposed them. Like if Mike Tomlin goes into a year with inexperienced coordinators, if John Harbaugh goes into a year with inexperienced coordinators, I'd worry about it a hell of a lot less. There's a structure, there's a culture, there's a process, and guys usually ascend to those roles.
Yeah.
From being promoted from within. There was concern. There was concern last year. Even though I will raise my hand and say it, I did not think that you were going to find a problem with Johnson that developed. I did not see that as a problem. I didn't know that it was going to be a huge success, but I didn't see it as like, okay, red flag.
Yeah.
We need to be really worried about this. Because
Yeah.
it didn't seem that way. Let's put it that way.
I would love to be able to have someone explain to me, put their finger exactly on what happened to that team after 11 games last year. I don't know. We have a bunch of theories, and maybe it is all. Maybe it's a compilation of everything. But, man, I never seen anything like that.
Yeah,
Never.
It is not good. It really wasn't good at all. We started today talking about the acquisition of Devin White, a 7.5 one-year deal, which all even in and of itself made me smile. The fact that they went out and addressed the linebacker position, but they did it with a guy who's a little bit pissed off that Tampa Bay soured on him and wasn't willing to give him an extension, that he comes in with something to prove on a one-year deal. This has been a formula, Pat, in the past where Howie Roseman has cashed in, where he's gotten guys who were like, hey, your one-year deal, come here, show it, prove it. And that's a testament to the team he's built, that guys who are on one-year type prove-it contracts think this is a great place to do it.
Yeah, it is. I think Vic Fangio is probably a big part of that. But we kind of laughed about it years ago when Jeffrey Lurie brought up the gold standard thing. But this is a destination for a lot of free agents, and if you're looking to win, I think this is a spot to do so. But also, like, the culture that's been built is a pretty positive one. So I feel like if you're a free agent, you're looking around, you're looking for landing spots. This is a pretty enticing one, and that's probably why you see top-level free agents want to come here all the time.
I mean, it pays off for you. You have those opportunities to show what you can do at a really, really good place that has shown we can get guys paid. After they come here, they can do it. The Devin White signing, though, was certainly not met with – I don't think that it was met with a lot of fanfare as far as joy within the Eagles fan base last night. And as Pat will say many times, it's not a joyous sight sometimes.
I think it was met with reality. You know, they needed a linebacker, and they went and got one. That's good. Now you dive into the linebacker. Why was Devin White so good 3-4 years ago, but fell off to the point of last year getting benched? What kind of physicality, I don't know, problems is he having or whatever? You have to look into all of it. The over-pursuing that drove Tampa Bay nuts. Those are things. So what's the good, what's the bad? Well, the bad I just labeled. The good is he appears to be a healthy 26-year-old. A kid that comes in here, although he's played in the league 5 years or whatever, it doesn't appear that from all the stuff that I read that there's anything physically there that's limiting him. It seems more mental the way I read it, like the over pursuing and all that stuff. So hopefully they can reel him in and have him become the linebacker that he was a few years ago.
And I think that it's the perfect guy. It's the perfect guy in the perfect situation for them to take a flyer on Devin White. And I perfectly understand people who are going to say, This is one of the top 5, and this is true, a top 5 worst linebackers every year of his career against the run. That is not someone with an opinion. That's just a factual representation. But he's a guy that can terrorize opposing quarterbacks. And if you believe that Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are going to be the players that they're expected to become, he can become a real weapon there. And right now I know this. If Nakobe Dean is healthy and Devin White is they're linebackers in coverage as far as side-to-side line speed, everything like that, has certainly improved greatly over what they've had. So there are positives. There are negatives too.
Sure.
Like it's not all sunshine and lollipops, but I don't understand the negativity towards it. I guess I just don't. I think this is something that you would want to you'd be okay with if you're an Eagles fan. You demand it.
I think okay
People
is
demand
a
it.
good, I think okay
You're
is a
okay
good,
with it,
yeah.
right?
Like that was my response last night when I saw it. Okay, you needed a linebacker, younger kid, has proven stuff in the NFL, has been down the last couple of years. Okay, let's see what happens. If anybody has a big complaint, so if you think about it, you're paying Saquon 13 plus a year, and now you bring him in at 7. Okay, so say $20 million a year you spent on those two positions for next season. Could you have gone a lot cheaper at running back and gone higher for a linebacker? Maybe. Is Patrick Queen worth all that when you have the talk? Well, he was kind of a product of his situation there in Baltimore. This is where the Eagles went. Time will tell. I think if you're talking money, I don't think you can be too upset about Devin White's contract.
No, not at all.
If there is a place to be upset, okay, I'll hear your argument on Saquon Barkley. I'll hear it. I'll listen to it. I understand.
And I, by the way, mine was on the money.
Right.
That's where my only complaint on it is that's more than I like to would want to pay for to me that I want to pay for a running back. It's not
right.
It seemed high because I think that it's what they choose to spend at linebacker. But honestly, reading more of the Patrick Queen stuff, I'm not sure I would have paid it either. And as much as I would have liked him, I'm not sure that I would have paid it either. So I think that they, and it's one of those things where he really did get paid because the market at the top end was thin. There wasn't a ton of top end type talent. It wasn't an overloaded position. Whereas running back appeared to be. We've never seen a free agency period where running back went
there was a lot
right off the board. It was like dominoes. One of the most popular ones that one of the most popular positions. So we'll find out if it pays off for the Eagles down the line. And obviously, look, free agency period is on. We could end up having something break this weekend. In the course of the weekend. So you want to be listening all weekend. Bill Colarulo will have you in the mornings on Saturday and Sunday, and maybe he'll have some more. Maybe there could be more breaking news on the Eagles front. Andrew joins us. Andrew, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good, Andrew. What's up, buddy?
Happy St. Patrick's weekend to everybody. Hope everybody has fun and safe and everybody. So I'm
and Ubers, right? Uber, yes.
Definitely Ubers, yes, and designated drivers. I'm excited about the linebacking position signing yesterday. I mean, I think that's great. I think that if he comes into a new defensive scheme with new defensive coordinator, that he can resurrect his career. And I think he's going to do really well here with the really great defensive line that we have here. Now, my concern, I just got out of the house. I got into the car. I didn't know if you guys talked about this yet. I'm very concerned about the NFL probing the Eagles. Not who cares about the Falcons. I'm just concerned about the Eagles because it seems like everybody wants us to fail, wants us to be penalized. I haven't read much into it. I don't know if you got what you guys are hearing about it.
Okay, I'll let you hear from Andrew Brandt yesterday, Andrew. He joined the best show ever yesterday, and I think he's going to put your mind at ease about the Eagles being investigated as far as tampering with Saquon Barkley.
No. I think that, they're talking about with Cousins in Atlanta, too. I just think now. I mean, listen, if the NFL is really going to get into that, as you said, as everyone says, they could find that with every team. Now, as I said, there's always going to be cover because if it is teams talking to agents and it's before the legal tampering period, you can always talk about something else. And unless someone's going to turn you in. Now, who has motivation to turn you in? It's never going to be the player. It's never going to be the agent. It's never going to be the team. I guess it could be some competitive agent because that's a cutthroat business. But that's going to be so rare. I think I even saw in that notice today on the news about standard procedure for the league, which basically means, I don't know, calling a team and saying, stop this. If there's something going on, we don't want to know. Whatever it may be, something like that.
Okay, so there, I think that should put Andrew's mind at ease.
Yeah, I mean, the only hole that you poke in that is when he says, who would turn them in? Well, your very own Philadelphia Eagles turned in the Arizona Cardinals and got a swap of a draft pick. So, I don't. If
They
there
were
is
able
a
to
penalty,
prove that. This
Yeah,
one, they're
well,
not going to be able to prove.
I don't know that. I mean, I don't know that the NFL doesn't say, hey, Howie, we need to see your phone. We need to see this. We need to see that. And they see phone call to Saquon Barkley on Monday. Yeah, they could prove it. I look, if they do go into it, to ease Andrew's mind a little bit, who called, if they do go into it, I think that the punishment, I mean, realistically, was that punishment all that big for Arizona? No, you swap draft picks in the same round. I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to deter the Eagles.
My guess is this: with the Eagles' vehement denial, Howie wouldn't be dumb enough to have called Saquon Barkley from his own phone.
Right.
He could have called from the general number at the Eagles, and could have, I don't know if it or some outside number, a la burner phone. Who knows? I'm hoping Howie's that smart. We've got a report on Devin White from a Buccaneers writer that we'll share. Plus, coming up at the top of the hour, this guy may be under the most pressure of anyone at all. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports. HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
What player is under the most pressure in 2024? It may not be a player. It may be a coach for the Eagles. And it damn well is. We'll get to that coming up after the top of the hour. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic. Hopefully your Friday is going well, as Fanatic Fridays are presented by Pump Man Philly. There you go, Bobby. For 24/7 emergency repair or pump replacement, count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. Pat's 13 days to opening day, so he's not really pumping it yet.
Not yet.
Not feeling the pump yet.
No, but I got my draft tomorrow, so.
Oh, you do have the draft tomorrow
maybe,
with the despicable people.
Yeah, I mean, they're Mets fans. They're like Mets and Yankees fans. They're gross.
Is it you got to be in a room with these people?
No, it was funny enough. My best friend who's in the league texted me and said, "All right, how do you want to get up to New York? Because usually the draft is held in New York City." I said, "Yeah,
Really?
I'm not planning on doing that. We have technology now where I could zoom in."
And
I'm zooming in. I
so
told
you're
him.
zooming in. Is he the only one? Are you the only one who's zooming in?
I don't know. I don't really care. I'm not going to go to a city I don't like to be surrounded by people I don't like for multiple hours. So it's just a very fake group, and I'm not a fake person, so I don't hide my emotions well. And also, I mean, it's one thing if I had like won the league, but I didn't. I'm just the guy that donates money every year. So because of that, I don't really want to go and hang out.
This is like a Seinfeld episode.
I can't stand these people.
That Pat's in a league. I don't know if there's anyone else in our listening audience that is in a fantasy sports league or otherwise, or some group that they just don't leave and they can't stand the people in it.
Yeah, I love the league. Like, I love the makeup of.
Yeah, I would
the
love to be in that league also. Yeah,
and the strategy of it. Like, I love that. But I mean, these people are just.
I can't imagine. Like I was in a league like Pat's too, where you had to bid. It was a bidding league, and you had $100, and you had to bid in 50-cent increments. We had one guy that I think I told you this the other day that brought a big box of baseball cards, and say like, I got John Kincade for $1. Boom, he'd throw you a John Kincade card right away. So your team, you would have in baseball cards every year.
Oh, I would love that.
We had another guy, the late great Joey Dione, who would only pick guys that had a history of drug troubles. So every year he had Darryl Strawberry, he had Dwight Gooden.
So he went with the old Keith Hernandez.
Keith Hernandez. He had a catcher, the guy that used to play for the Cardinals. What's his face? I forget it. But like, it was funny. He would always put a smattering of like drug related guys on his team. Like that was his team, and we'd laugh at that every year. Like we had so much fun. I labeled it. It was right after I got married to Don. I said, "Look, it's my favorite day of the week. Going over to Joey Merton's house and doing our baseball bidding was the best. It was the best."
I had a buddy of mine, Ken, who lived in our neighborhood, and so you had golf groups of people you would golf with. Ken's recently passed, God rest his soul. And he golfed with a group of guys that he didn't like because they would have better tee times. So he wanted to golf with.
I feel like that's more of a Seinfeld episode than what I got going on.
He wanted to golf with our group, but our group, we like to tee off around 9 o'clock. He wanted to be first out in the first out group, and it was these Harry Hard-Ons that played in the first groups out. So we would tee off like our first tee time might be 8:30.
Right.
And he wanted to be done by like 11 o'clock. So he'd be in with the Harry Hard-On group, who he hated. He didn't like any of them. And every once in a while, he'd trickle down and be with our group, and he goes, "Boy, I laugh a lot when I play with you guys." And we'd be like, "Well, why don't you join our golf group?"
I'll tell you what. I am that guy that loves to be one of the first out.
So, see, I enjoy
6 o'clock.
That's way early. Really?
Oh, God, yeah. I love that because then I love getting home when the family's still just getting up and all that stuff. So I do like that. But as you very well know, I like laughing and having fun on the golf course.
Yes, you do.
So if I had the choice, I don't think I'd give up the laughing.
And we would say to him, "Seriously, you could golf with us. We're welcoming you in."
What did he not like about them?
Because of the fact that, well, first off, they are highly competitive bettors. They bet on everything on the golf course, Pat. Like
Okay,
it's
yeah.
it's the
That could be annoying.
when they get to the table after a golf match, they would take 20 minutes breaking down all the little bets that they had in the course of it. He just wanted to play good. Now, he didn't mind playing a little skins game or something, but he didn't want to play where you have to bring out an abacus to figure out the bets afterwards.
Yeah, this baseball league has side bets too.
Okay, but that's
It'll be
individuals,
like,
right?
all
That's just
it'll-
individuals.
Yeah, it'll be like, all right, my team versus your team.
Okay.
Home runs, RBIs. Like they'll do the individual categories, and they'll bet an amount or whatever. I have like $1,200 locked up in Jimmy Rollins Hall of Fame bets with this league because I went off one year back in like 2011 that he was a Hall of Famer and I
you
just
still
started
have them
locking
hanging
up
there?
bets with Mets fans. Yeah.
Yeah, if
So-
you have if you have anything like that, any experience like that, you can share it with us.
One of the first times I met Pat, or when we started getting friendly when I came over here, and getting to know each other, it was, and him telling me his story of just like, oh God, I got to go down to Florida this weekend. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough.
I got to do this draft, and it sucks. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're flying down to Florida to do something you don't want to do, and then him telling me that he Irish exited the whole league one year and went to the airport. And,
Yeah, went to the airport and just left.
I mean, like,
Hey, where do you see ya?
that just
Kirby-
describes you to a T, dude.
If Curb Your Enthusiasm wants to continue, they could just pick up with Pat's life.
Yeah, if they want to.
I mean, he wants another season.
Look,
just spin it off into you.
If you had to be surrounded by these 50-year-old, middle-aged losers, then sit there and
You've had some experience with that.
yeah, no, I like you guys don't even compare to these people.
Oh, well, that's
They're
nice.
just-
Thank you,
they're
Pat.
It's a league that's I either can tolerate you. There's
Okay.
two people I like, and then the rest of them
There
they
you
can
go.
kick rocks.
Well, as we start the 8 o'clock hour, yesterday, Rob Motti joined the Andrew Salchunas in Middays. And he was talking about the fact of who's under pressure. And I really believe this, especially the way the Eagles have approached free agency. Nick Sirianni has 2 years left on his deal. I believe he's got 1 year left. The sort of Damocles, I think it is hanging over his head. I think Nick Sirianni is under amazing pressure. And I talk about the fact that Mike McCarthy and his entire coaching staff is all on 1 year contracts. I think Nick Sirianni has to approach it that he is too. And Rob Motti says, look, Nick Sirianni understands it. He's under tremendous pressure.
A ton of pressure, especially when there was so much speculation that in that 2-3 day window after the loss to the Buccaneers that he may not be back. You don't go from potentially losing your job or the sentiment that you're going to lose your job or should, because I know a lot of people in Philly were calling for him to be fired, to coming in here feeling like your life is set. Like if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm not making big purchases or adding any major renovations to my house in South Jersey right now, because he's got to go out there this year and he's got to win. They got to produce. And I don't think there's going to be a day that goes by that he doesn't think about 10-1 to the way things ended. That's got to be eating at him, gnawing at him constantly, daily. And that was just one of the epic major collapses.
Trying to dig out of the weight of pressure and expectation, this Eagles team is expected to do a ton. And more importantly, they're expected to see ascending players coming into their own. If that doesn't happen, Nick Sirianni's the one taking the bullet for it. They're going to say.
Well, he's
this
at the
doesn't
front. Yeah, he's in the head of the line, right? I mean, he's the one right there that has to take the bullet. As he said numerous times, I am the head coach.
Oh, yeah.
What does it mean? It means I'm the head coach. Okay, well, then you are. You're the guy out front. If things don't go well, I don't think they're going to fire coordinators again.
No.
Again, and go through all that. You have two established guys that you hired to help with Nick Sirianni, I believe. So, yeah, if things start to go badly right off the bat or whatever, yeah, he better be ready. The good thing about Sirianni, though, I think this offseason was when approached and asked about what changes. He was open to everything. He wasn't my way's the right way. And 2 years ago when I did it, we went to the Super Bowl. So how can you question me this year? No, he said, yeah, we're going to have to look at practice in training camp. Yeah, we're going to have to look at hitting. Yeah, we're going to have to look at wearing the pads a little bit more. So he's not so stubborn as to say, look, it worked once. Just because it didn't work again doesn't mean I'm not right. He seems like he's open for change.
Okay. I mean, change is one thing. Whether that's going to be look, he's been given all the tools. he should be able to show an improved product next year. They went out and they've addressed some of the issues that he's had.
Yeah, I mean, there's still holes on that defense, but that's a Vic Fangio thing to me. You know, I don't know that Nick Sirianni's doing much on that defensive side of the ball. And when you have like a 65-year-old Vic Fangio coming in, I don't doubt that maybe he said to Nick, you can come down here when you're called upon. I don't need you at any other time unless you're bringing pizza or something. So,
Unless you're bringing pizza.
You bring pizza.
yeah. I mean, I
Coach,
just don't.
Nick, we're all right with you coming down and seeing us, but you better be bringing pizza.
Yeah, you can observe. You can sit in the back and watch what we do.
That's terrible because it really did come out that that's the way it sort of is addressed.
Well, he said it himself. He said, you know, I once in a while, should I go check in on meetings every once in a while?
Once in a
Okay.
while.
Is that what you want from me? I was shocked that he wasn't. Now, look, he can't be everywhere all at once, but I
Isn't there
just
a movie
assumed that he
about
was
that?
doing more than checking in on a meeting every once in a while.
I don't look. He's been declawed. They took him to the SPCA and they declawed him. Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports, who joined us yesterday, has a post this morning. He talked to a reliable Buccaneers writer on Devin White, and here's the scouting report quoted: "Really talented, needs motivation, lousy tackler, great blitzer. Gets owned by centers and big offensive linemen, and he freelances a lot. And his game has declined every year since the 2020 postseason." I would think that there are facts to back up every single one of those. We talked about it earlier. He's terrible against the run. His numbers, bottom 5 linebacker against the run in his entire career, every year of his entire career. That's been a problem. But overall, he's it's hard to say, but he's a huge improvement over what you got. So I mean,
Because you had
than we
nothing.
right? I mean, you had
Yeah.
I mean, and we've seen them though go into a season, sifting through the bargain bin, and they're
Yeah.
not going to do that this year. They're not doing it. Taking a different approach.
Well, they're probably going to have. You only have 2 linebackers, so unless you're going to draft a couple more and bring them in, look, it's not above comprehension that Devin White isn't in for a competition for a starting job. I mean, from what you just read of a guy that covered him, he was not really impressed since 2020. That was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So
now he won a ring that year too.
yeah. So
So you step in, you win a ring, you are a breakout player as far as just you're getting after the quarterback, you're getting the sacks, you're getting the sexy stats. But the reliable, dependable stats you're not doing.
All right, so here's what I got from a buddy who's a season ticket holder for the Bucs, and will fly down there, go to the game, and fly back to New Jersey. He said, "Good luck with Devin White. Hasn't been the same player since 2020. We'll see. I'm not sure. He may play inspired since he's wanted to play in Philly for the last 2 years. Not sure he will be able to handle the media or the fans, but Bucs fans are ecstatic that he's not back." And I responded with two different texts. I said Nicholas and then Morrow. So,
Yeah,
once again, it's an upgrade, folks.
Yeah, I don't want Nick Morrow.
I mean, you need to go into it remembering that
With
he's
expectations.
I mean, if you go into it with realistic expectations and just go, look, they got an upgrade, and that's what I wanted, then you'll be all right. If you're going into it thinking that they got, the next Trotter, then you're probably going to be sadly disappointed and pissed off come October and November.
By the way, I looked at that. I talked about it earlier on the show today. That was my little rabbit hole yesterday. Trotter, 4th-round pick. Trotter Jr., 4th-round pick or better. 5th, 6th, 7th. Anything before the 3rd day, I don't want it. And I know the name value is, you got to draft him. He's Jeremiah Trotter Jr. No, I don't. And there's enough videos out there that you can watch analysis of his game that will tell you they need someone with a different skill set, and they also need somebody bigger. So the Eagles are still going to be shopping there. It's not just a name, as Bob was saying yesterday. The name is intriguing.
yeah, look, we all love Jeremiah Trotter and you can say you want him if you're educated on him. If you're educated on Jeremiah Trotter Jr., maybe you watched him play at the prep and you were a close follower of Clemson, and you can say, look, I'm telling you, this guy's an NFL linebacker that'll be a starter in the next year or two. Okay, I'm all for it if that's what you think he's a 3rd round or whatever. But just throwing out a name and saying you need him without any data of his game, or no, I don't want him without any data
Because
of his
of
game,
that.
that's just not right. Yeah. I everything I've read has been I saw as early as second round before. Now he seems to have dropped down to that late second, third roundish somewhere. Yeah.
The Sixers go down to defeat last night in Milwaukee, and they let it stumble away. They're leading for 3 quarters, lead after every single quarter, and then fumbled away down the stretch. But right now for the 76ers, they are in a challenging position. Again, right now, a couple more losses, a bad week. Any talk of avoiding the play-in tournament will then be lost. That's the next thing that's on the chopping block. They're at the point of playing themselves out of any chance of avoiding the play-in tournament. So they're going to be in one of those elimination. You play in the 9-10, you're in that single elimination game. You play in you're the 7 or the 8 seed. You're going to at least have 2 chances to advance.
Yeah, that's what it's coming to.
That's what it's looking like
it
right
is.
now.
It absolutely is. And here's the disappointing thing is that when Joel Embiid went out, we talked about how, okay, you're going to have to extract something good out of him being out. Do you get better play from a Kelly Oubre? Yeah, you have. So that's a positive. Did Tobias Harris step up in that situation to be one of your leading scorers? Not really. Did you get better play or did B-Ball Paul show you something more that you didn't know you had? Not really. So if you look at it, you didn't extract an awful lot from him being out. I think there's a lot more negatives than there is positives. That's the disappointing thing, and that's why you are where you are right now.
And, Pat, you had a question for Bob, though, about the fourth quarter leads.
Why can this team not hold a fourth quarter lead?
I really think right now, Pat, it is talent. Like, if you watch NBA, yeah, we all do, but we all know NBA games. It's kind of like a boxing match most times of, yeah, I'll hang with you. Let me get my work in. Better team's going to win. Better team's going to win.
Punch, counter punch.
Yeah, you have those games where they're blowouts and it's one of those nights, whatever. When you're a team that's simply not as talented, like not as talented a little bit as the other team, I'm going to go 90% the other team wins. Sixers have a Maxey and a Oubre. They have some guys that can score that'll let you hang. But then once talent really comes into play in that fourth quarter, they don't have enough answers. They just don't, and especially if Tobias Harris isn't giving you all that much.
It's so frustrating because you'll sit down for a night of Sixers basketball thinking, all right, they're probably going to get hammered, and then they don't, and they string you along, and after halftime they're winning by a little bit, and third quarter they're still up, and you're like, all right, we might be able to steal a game here, and then they blow a fourth quarter lead, and it just seems like it's happened a ton recently where the games that they are in that they do end up losing, it's because of a fourth quarter blown lead where the other team just pulls away big time.
Is it running out of gas?
Or
is it lack of depth?
I just think it's talent. I really do. I think talent takes over in the fourth quarter of an NBA game, especially like Pat described when it's kind of close. I mean, who are you getting to match basket for basket with a Giannis Antetokounmpo? I can't trust a Tyrese Maxey on jump shots, step back 30-footers. When Antetokounmpo can get into the lane, and I think he's one of the most dominating scorers in the NBA to me in that he can get to wherever he wants pretty much whenever he wants.
Seems that way.
Yeah, wherever and whenever. So, you're trying to answer an Antetokounmpo and a Damian Lillard with what exactly? With Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris?
A lot of juice, a lot of energy. It's not working out.
And think about it. Who's opening things up for Tyrese Maxey? Who's opening things up for the guy that you need to score 30 points? You know how hard it probably is for Tyrese Maxey to dump 30 without Joel Embiid out there? And, like, who is opening things up for him? Buddy Hield's not doing it because his shooting hasn't been all that great lately. Tobias Harris certainly isn't. When you look at a Kelly Oubre, well, that's a guy that you're playing off of because he's a better dribble driver and going to the basket than anything else. Like, who's making life easier for Tyrese Maxey right now?
I do ask you this. Is Kelly Oubre a good player on a bad team?
I would go with no, because he was a good player on a good team when they had Embiid.
Okay.
So
it's a good question, John.
You know what I mean? Is he one of those guys who is
he piling up stats?
Yes.
Someone has to score. I really don't think so. He was a steal of a signing when they got him when Embiid was out there and putting up 35 a game. So I think he was going to get his no matter what. He's got that confidence that I wish Tobias Harris did have.
Well, he definitely has.
Shoot out of it.
You always you never question that he's there, sort of like, at least to me, to play. He's there with he seems excited. He's excited.
Look, Kelly Oubre has that non-thinking attitude that sometimes you really like in players, right? It's like, oh, God, what the hell are you doing there? But then he does it, and you say, oh, wow, okay. More times than not, he'll dribble through a lane and like, why are you trying to dunk over a 7-footer? 7 out of 8 times he'll do it, or 7 out of 10 times he'll do it. And the other 3 times you'll be scratching your head. But sometimes you need those type of players, those non-thinking, he's going to get the ball and go try to score. Okay, sometimes you need that.
It's funny when you say non-thinking because it does sound like it's.
And I'm not saying that in a bad way.
I know what you mean.
Not like, this coming from a guy who had to think his way through everything playing because I didn't have the talent of everybody else. And you see other guys like that. He does. He has the talent. He has the jumping ability. He has the ability to get to the rim really well. He still can shoot a jump shot. You just put him on a court and you tell him go play. On a team with Joel Embiid, yeah, he's good. And you can put him on that second unit, yeah, he's really good. But when he's asked to be something, I think things get a little shakier.
There's a lesson to be learned from the career of Brandon Graham, and it applies to the current Eagles. It's the John Kincade Show on The Fanatic. exciting weekend, and we get closer and closer to Major League Baseball. You only have 2 more weekends to go without it till the real games start. 13 days to opening day.
I can't wait.
I'm feeling it. Pat's getting there, though. You could tell he was getting there. So a story I'm reading here out of San Francisco. Mrs. Bosa. So Joey Bosa's mom was getting involved with social media and talking about the fact that, I guess something along the lines that both of her sons were going to be 49ers. And potentially the Chargers were like, what? Your mom's saying so you really are, you want to go to the 49ers. So it may have cost him money in his restructuring of his deal to stay in L.A. That Mrs. Bosa being like, yeah, they're going to let my boy walk, and they're both going to be 49ers. Everybody better watch out. And it was like, really? Oh, so you're going to go to the 49ers? Oh, okay.
Mom, stay out my business.
Oh, my gosh. So,
well, if you remember, his mom when Joey Bosa was drafted, his mom came in and held up contract negotiations, and that's why he was late to camp back in the day.
Yeah, she was the one who was telling him, no, don't sign, right? Well, Andrew Brandt, can you see if the Andrew Brandt's the number 2 soundbite from Andrew Brandt? He joined yesterday on the Best Show Ever and talked about this free agency stuff because there's a lot of people wondering, are the Eagles about to get pounced on for potential tampering and everything? And from Andrew Brandt's viewpoint, free agents most certainly already know where they're going long before free agency begins.
Free agency starts way before now. And what do you think these people are doing at the combine? Like, I went to the combine for 10 years. I never saw a workout. You know, you're meeting with agents. Teams are setting up shop. You have the agents coming through of your own players. You have the agents coming through of pending free agent players. You can always have cover for that because those same agents represent people on your team. And you have agents you want to meet with about pay cuts, about cap restructures. All of that goes on at the combine. By the time you leave the combine, free agents know where they're going. I mean, you know where you're going at that point.
So, in other words, tampering happens all the time.
Yep.
It's something that is, yes. Teams cheat.
Well,
and every
think about
team
it.
cheats.
12 o'clock came around on Monday, legal tampering time. And 10 minutes later, we're getting an announcement that DeAndre Swift signed with who did he sign with?
DeAndre Swift Bears.
Hey, that's right.
Now, the thing is, though, is that his agent could have worked out a deal.
In 5 minutes?
No, he could have worked out a deal. Now, remember, he's allowed to work out that deal from Monday. And then he can work out that deal. Like, he can work out that deal as far as just have it all worked out and be ready to go. And here's a number we're looking for. Here's a number you're at. Whisper down the lane. Because
they did all that before they were supposed to on Monday.
Yeah, but they can.
Monday it was supposed to open up at noon. Now's the time that you're allowed to legally tamper. Tamper is working out a contract. Like, if you're working out contracts, that's tampering.
I would agree with that.
So they're not supposed to start until Monday at noon. Okay, you can all do something illegally, legally now under our guidelines, and 5 minutes later you're ironing out a $24 million contract. I'm sorry, John, I'm no lawyer or agent or anything like that. When $24 million is involved, I think I need more than 5 minutes to make sure everything's okay.
Wait a minute. I've heard that website where you can go and you can get a will and you could get all those things worked out. And, like, all you have to do is just download it off the web. I mean,
I'm worth more dead than alive, but it's not $24 million, you know. Think about that. Somebody like DeAndre Swift's getting $8 million a year from another team, and literally 5 minutes after things starts, they're announcing it. That's crazy.
Worked with Walter Payton winner and Villanova legend Brian Finneran back in the day. And he had been cut by Andy Reid in his rookie year, ended up with the Falcons, had a good career there, and he hit free agency. And when he hit free agency was to begin at 12:01. And at 12:01 at night, he said, well, in the morning, I'm sure we're going to have some news. At 12:01, Andy Reid called his house. When the period began, Andy Reid, the phone rang, and they're like, okay, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? He thought his agent be calling. Andy Reid called him at 12:01 when he was allowed to call.
Andy was recruiting Hollywood Brown yesterday.
See,
he posted the
that's
text
amazing
exchange,
to
and he texted him and said, like, imagine Chiefs red and diamonds. So
I love that. And I love the fact that a head coach gets deeply involved like that and has the personal touch. And Andy said to him, my bad. my bad cutting you. Back in the day, I'd love to have you back. And he ended up getting, but what Brian had promised the Falcons, the chance to match any deal that he was offered, they matched and he stayed.
Right.
But it was Andy Reid going to that. Pat, that's a tremendous thing, is that when you have your head coach is considered that kind of guy to play for, that people want to hear from him.
Yeah. I mean, well, luckily, and I have my problems with Nick Sirianni, but he appears to be that guy, too, where
Yes.
he was blowing up Shaq Leonard's phone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever, trying to get him in Philly. So he does seem to be built from the same cloth, and you expect a younger coach to have no problem doing that. But yeah, a coach like Andy Reid, when they reach out to you and say, we want you,
yes.
how do you not go, yeah, okay, I'll go play for that guy? Especially, as you said, he's arguably the greatest coach of all time. You can make the case.
I think he is.
And unlike Belichick, who was the other guy in that conversation, Andy Reid has the pedigree of being a fun coach to play for.
And
so,
Chiefs red and diamonds is a pretty nice lure.
Yeah.
Oh, and Patrick Mahomes, too.
Yeah,
That's not bad either.
That definitely doesn't hurt. But the diamonds thing, if I was playing for the Cardinals, yeah, the diamonds would jump out to me. I'd be like, oh, winning seems to be fun. I should try that.
Sometimes history helps you learn about teams and players. And in fan bases, we can all learn from history. I looked back yesterday at stories where there was a couple links to stories off of Brandon Graham stories about coming back for one more year in his career. And I didn't realize, and maybe it was the distance, how close the Eagles came to parting ways with Brandon Graham early on in his career. And how they were ready to, and there were columns written in this town and stories told, and
Not by me.
Get Brandon Graham out of here. What a bust. And it just brings me to the fact of guys like Jordan Davis and what we know at 1 year of Nolan Smith. I've already heard that this week of Nolan Smith, man, boy, is he a disappointment. And Jalen Carter had a disappointing final 6 games, dropping off of his production. It's Jalen Carter. Did we not learn something from a guy who is Brandon Graham, who will be one of those players that Eagle fans are going to remember forever? That it was, and you can go read it, you can go Google it on the web. Brandon Graham, they were talking about getting rid of him. And he was not going to be in it. And there was this town was up in arms that he was a major mistake.
So what are you asking for, John?
Patience.
What will you not get, John? And then this is weird. We're talking 13 years ago. Look how we've changed as a society in 13 years. And I'm being honest. We are.
As a society, we're less patient.
Oh, my God.
But as an Eagles fan base, don't you think we're more?
I think they are so intertwined. I really do.
Okay.
I'm big on that. We've seen the division in this country because of politics, right? So does that not carry over to places? It absolutely does. It just does. And it's sad, and it's all that because, you want kumbaya, you want all that. Attainable, probably not, but you wish it. I just think, yes, that society, the impatience of society, of everything at my fingertips, no, it's not going to allow for patience anymore. It's not. I think even as little as 13 years ago with a Brandon Graham, although you read stories of, yeah, you know what, he's not getting it done after 2 or 3 years. Not getting it done,
and the kid's not getting it.
I think
that was one of the things, too. He's just not getting it.
Yeah.
What it takes to be a professional, what it takes to be.
And then you had Earl Thomas going to Pro Bowls out there in Seattle.
Which caused people.
What everybody was, looking at. Yeah.
That doesn't help, right,
He wasn't
Pat?
good in his first couple of years.
And he wasn't.
He almost went to the Giants in free agency, and that wasn't going to be a huge move for New York. It was more of a depth move at the time, and all of a sudden it kind of clicked, and he started. I think part of it too is they didn't know how to correctly use him early on, but then he was battling injuries as well, and I don't think he dealt with the media pressure either all that well early on in his career with the Earl Thomas stuff. I mean, the guy would open up Twitter and it was nothing but Earl Thomas, and then he had to deal with that. So,
and it was the beginnings of Twitter.
Yes.
So it wasn't it wasn't along the lines, Pat, where by now these players have grown up with it, so
Yeah.
maybe they have a better understanding of it. This
Yeah,
was still new and fresh.
coming from Michigan, where he's the man, and he gets to the pros, and
He was getting pummeled.
and he's getting inundated with Earl Thomas stuff. I'm not going to say that I was one of those. I was one of those people,
In high school, Pat Egan was maybe
I was in.
tweeting?
I was no, I didn't get a Twitter until college.
Okay.
Yeah, I was very anti-Twitter for a while. But with Brandon Graham, he's probably the best example of this fan base doing a 180 on a player in a positive light.
It might be.
Because normally it's like we like you, and then all of a sudden we hate you. It's rare that we don't like a guy, and then we eventually come around on him universally, where now he's an all-time great.
How long do you think it was to turn around, Pat? Because I don't remember exactly. Like, was it 3, 4, 5 years in before everybody
I think
started
it was
to?
longer than that, man. I think
Yeah,
it was
so do
like
I.
6,
It's
7.
like 6, 7.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, like
Yeah,
Jason
Can you
Kelce.
imagine a society, a football team, any of us putting up? I hate to use that term, but I will. Putting up with something for 6, 7 years.
No.
That ain't happening in pro sports anymore. Certainly not with a fan base.
Well, I think a big part of it was he wasn't producing. That's the biggest part. On the field, he was not very good. And when he finally started to kind of get healthy and just looking at his numbers, when he finally started to kind of get there, it was like, third year he had 5.5 sacks. Fourth year he had 3. Next year he had 5.5. Then it was 6.5. So around like his 5th year, and then they brought him back after the 5th year when I talked about he was going to do the Giants. Around that time, teams started utilizing social media too, and you started seeing more of his personality. I think that went a long way with the fan base
that's a
as
good
well.
point.
He started becoming more of a productive player. You started appreciating what he did against the run, but then also the videos of him, quote unquote, trash talking,
Which were fantastic.
yeah, hilarious. I mean, because it's just trash talk you're not used to hearing. So I think all of that combined, it was like, oh, hey, we have a pretty useful player. Yeah, he's not Earl Thomas level great, but he's pretty damn useful. And then he rounded into form and became a really, really solid player that's still in the league, whereas Earl Thomas is sitting at home.
Like, I don't think Jason Kelce became Jason Kelce till he was like 4 years in with this fan base. I mean, he wasn't a guy who they were like, okay, Jason Kelce is a long-term, he's the answer. I think it took 4 years he made a Pro Bowl, or it might have been 5. I may have been off on that.
Yeah, he was
But I mean,
typical
it took a
lineman.
while. Yeah, it took a while. Development.
Put him in. Okay, he's not hurting you.
He played a ton of games, though.
He did. Yeah.
Right from the very beginning, they were able to play him.
It was funny. One of my nephews texted me, and he's like, think about this, Uncle Bob. You got a center on a football team that's getting as much attention as your guy. Would you ever have thought it?
No.
I mean, think about that. In basketball, look, there's only 5 players on the floor. The fact that in football, of the 11 offensive players you have, if you would have thought an offensive lineman is going to get this much praise and adulation from a sports community, I don't think I ever saw that day coming.
If you ever told me that an offensive lineman of any position was going to start every game for 9 straight seasons,
Yeah.
I would never have believed it. And I mean, so there's things, but it took him Jason Kelce, it took him time to have this city go, oh, okay, we got something. We've got something here. And then it just underdug really is where his legend just grew.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a coach, sometimes it's an opportunity that just a player comes and runs and takes off with it. And it certainly worked with him. I ask you, though, now, are the Eagles at 11-6 last year, and now what you've seen in free agency to start the year? And remember, you've lost 2 really critical players in retirement in Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox. Is the arrow of expectation still flat for you? Or have they done enough to maybe say it nudges it that this team's looking up? And I don't know how anybody, and I really don't. If you want to join us, you can at 610-632-0975. I don't know how anybody's arrow could be pointing down.
Up from where?
The 11-6 of last year, and where they were as far as just overall record-wise, not the way they catapulted at the end down and went down the slide after the great start and then just slid down. If you just look at the 11-6 finish, is your arrow still at, that's around what they are? Or have they made enough moves to say to you, no, I think they can be a team that has a slight uptick. They can be a team that goes back to 2022 expectations. I can't get there yet. I just can't. I need to see a lot more, and I need to see this draft be productive.
I like the way you put it, because if you can look at 11-6,
As just a number.
Right.
A
Kansas
bar.
City Chiefs won 11-6
They
last
did.
year.
And it was a
Look
different
how
11
much
and
di-
6.
Buffalo Bills went 11 and 6 last year. Look how different that was. Their crappiness came early. Then they lost to the Eagles in overtime and went on to win 6 straight. The record is interesting, John. The Eagles could be a lot better this year. And maybe win what? One more game?
They could be
that
12 and
could-
5, and they could be a much better team.
Exactly. I know I've overstated this, but I'll say I think they were the worst team in football at the end of football last year. I think they were the worst team in the NFL. That's crazy to say about an 11-6 team, but I thoroughly believe it. I do have more confidence in this team, or I would point the arrow up simply because of the 2 new coordinators you have.
Liv said to me the day we listened to the word salad of Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni in that end-of-the-season press conference, we're driving back down to Temple, and we were listening to it, and she said, Dad, and it made sense to me. She said, would the coordinators have been fired if they had lost 2 games in September, 1 game in October, 2 games in November, and 1 game in December?
It's a good point.
I said, no. They wouldn't have been fired. The 1 and 6 got everybody fired. An 11 and 6 record wouldn't have been enough for me to think that they're going to fire all the coordinators and make big wholesale changes. I think it was the 1 and 6 collapse. It was the 7 weeks that was such a microcosm of terrible that cost them. Because she was like, well, what if they just spread out the losses? Would they have looked at 11 and 6 differently? And I really think they would have. Because we've celebrated 11 and 6, 12 and 5 type seasons before.
It's an interesting question because of the teams I just brought up. Let's not forget, the Buffalo Bills fired their offensive coordinator.
They did.
They went 11 and 6. They won They won 6 in a row.
After losing to the Eagles was their last loss.
What was that? Thanksgiving weekend.
Thanksgiving weekend Sunday.
I mean, think of that. So there's so many. It's a great question. Your Super Bowl champions had the same exact record during the season as the Eagles.
And the AFC champion runner-up, the AFC runner-up,
yeah,
was 11 and 6.
Exactly.
They did the same thing. It's it's optics of how you finish.
Dallas beat the Eagles by 1 game. 1 game. And, they went into the playoffs with such high hopes. And, of course, those get, diminished again.
Green Bay just crushed it.
Yeah, so it's like, what was Green Bay's record during the regular season? And then
10 and 7, I think,
yeah.
maybe, or 9. It may have been 9 and 8.
It is. It's what's crazy and great about sports all in one. If you told me the Eagles were going to go 12 and 5 this year, certainly I'll take that. That's only 1 game better than last year, but it could also be astronomically better, like heading into a playoff than you were last year.
And a lot about is heading into playoffs is you want to be riding the wave of momentum. And so I was like, honey, I think that and honestly, 11 and 6, the way that Liv drew it up for me, Pat, would have been a nightmare because we would have had another. Yep. I think we would have had another year of Sean Desai and another year.
I'd kind of rather have what we had at that point,
because you wanted the change.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I agree. I think they probably would have brought him back for another year and made excuses and whatnot. But after the way it ended, how could you do that? So it might be best when we look back on everything that happened in a couple of years and go, yeah, maybe it's good thing that they lost out the way they did because it brought sweeping changes and the changes ended up bearing fruit.
I do wonder if the hiring of Kellen Moore was sort of a we got the next guy in place if Nick Sirianni really does crap this thing out. Because they wanted him before. They were interested in him before. He was one of their top targets when they hired Nick Sirianni. And they're an offensive club. They played footsie with him before. I just wonder if there's like a safety net thinking, okay, we got a guy here who we think we liked him before, that we could end up using him. Because this team, if they were to move off of Nick Sirianni, if anything happens this year where they move off of him, if someone thinks that arrow's heading down, the Eagles are going to look like a laundromat of coaches in NFL circles, of being a team that made the playoffs 6 out of 7 years and going through 3 different coaches in that time frame. That's going to
including a Super Bowl win and a Super Bowl appearance. I mean, if you think about it, it's crazy that could be happening. Howie, famously said 3 Super Bowls in 7 years. That doesn't, or 2 Super Bowls in 7 years. He said 6 at the time.
Right.
You don't usually go through 2 or 3 coaches in a run like that, and include in another. This year being what it was still 11 and 6. You're still talking good records, 9-7 2 years ago.
Other
or 3 years
cities
ago.
would celebrate 11-6.
I'm thinking we would too if it was differently. If it played out much like the way Liv described,
We'd feel better.
Yeah, you probably would.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's just not the way. It's not the way that it all.
But
shook
maybe
out.
that was for the best.
Oh, no, the Pat just said it. I think that
Yeah.
is. I think we all wanted change.
Yeah, I think Pat's right on it.
Could 2024 end up being? Could 2023? Could we look back in November? If I said to you right now, truth serum, do you think in November of 24, later this year, we're going to be talking about last year being a blessing? That everything crapped out the way it did at the end of the year. We're going to look at it around Thanksgiving this year and say, okay, it's a blessing. We got Fangio. We got Kellen Moore. The team looks fixed. Sirianni doesn't look like a buffoon. We're ready to go. I'm leaning that way. I'm leaning that way.
It would be hard with the talent. Excuse me. It would be hard with the talent that this team has not to look better than the last 7 games of last year. And I'm talking, all right, take a 10-game
Sure.
stretch. There's no way they're going to conjure up memories of the last 7 games of last season.
No.
You can't.
They can't. And if they did, it would be a disaster.
So look, on paper, this offense, it could be really, really special. On paper, this defense has many holes. But when you go back and look at the good teams of the Eagles over the last 6 years, I don't think there was many times you were saying, oh, watch out for this defense. Nah, the defense is there, and how he plugs and plays, and he does what he does. They might not even be there yet, but after the draft and with Vic Fangio, you're hoping that they do.
Bob wants to know who excites you. Get your mind out of the gutter. John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatics. group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
I see that hardworking Ray Dunn's in the building. Andrew Salchunas has rolled in, too. They must be planning a big midday show today.
I had lunch with Ray yesterday, and I looked at him this morning, and I said, did you ever go home after I left you?
Did he?
You know, he looks, and in the word of my father, when he used to look at me maybe on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, you look a little sluggish.
A little sluggish?
Yeah, Ray might be a little
No,
sluggish.
he's good. Look, he's good. He's right there. He's feeling good.
Wait. Yeah, get on there. All right.
He's not a big eater, though, right?
Oh, no, he and I shared a burger yesterday. Yeah, it was good.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Burger yesterday.
Wait a minute. Pat, two dudes sharing a burger? I mean,
Yeah, it's cool.
All right.
Sharing a burger?
What's wrong with that?
So what'd you do? You cut it in half?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I take a bite, you take a bite.
No, you
Yeah.
Maybe bird
He
style.
held one end, I held the other, and we just started
Yeah,
nibbling,
Lady and the
John.
Tramp. There's
Yeah.
a lot of ways you can do it.
I'm
you can
not
do it baby
sure.
bird style.
I'm
You
not
can
sure
do Lady
they-
and the Tramp. You can just cut it in half.
Okay, so
And Ray was nice enough to get the tomato on the side.
Oh,
for
okay,
me,
good.
'cause I can't have tomato touch any of my food, so yeah.
so
It's
two
all
dudes.
good.
Okay, so two dudes can share a burger if it's cut in half. Can two dudes share a dessert?
Yeah,
One dessert with two spoons.
Oh, yeah. I'll ask for 2 spoons.
Sure.
To make it as awkward as possible.
Hey,
You-
Brock and I go out to lunch, and he wants to get a
Ice cream
you know.
of a hot fudge sundae.
Oh, damn straight. Pour it on there,
Absolutely.
2 spoons. We're
Bring one
we're
right
going at
now.
it. Yeah,
Watch me do it.
no problem with
I've
that.
never seen you do this.
Watch me do it. I did it at Burns, I think.
You did? Who was sharing with
I
you?
was dipping my spoon into everyone's ice cream at Burns.
Yeah, you did.
I gave no Fs that night.
No, you did. You were all over it with that.
If I am not mistaken, when Pat and I went out to lunch in Arizona, you had plans with somebody else that day. Remember,
Right,
we
right,
went
I
to
remember.
the pizza place. I think we did share dessert, Pat.
We did.
Yeah.
We absolutely did.
Did
No-
your
no
hands
problem.
touch as you were like both
May have-
for the
I
last?
think it was all right.
Look, we were
Last
sharing
piece.
we were sharing a room together, so you
You
might
were.
as well
Oh yeah, that's right.
you might as well go full bore with the whole situation. and
Everything.
take you behind. I'm a top.
There you go. Bob, you want to know about excitement. I mean, and that's it. And it's hard to be, honestly, in March, sometimes it's hard to find excitement because you've had 6 months of data with your winter sports teams, and they haven't delivered much for us. And we're still away from baseball season, even though we got 13 days.
Yeah, and the Eagles are always at the top of our minds
Oh,
and
sure.
everybody's minds. Who is your most exciting player to watch in Philadelphia right now? Now, I wanted to go in with the caveat of, okay, you can't say, but I couldn't come up with that caveat. Now, there's leaders in the clubhouse, probably, but who is your most exciting player? And you have to take everything into consideration.
Everything into consideration.
Everything into consideration.
I think that it's got to be the Phillies that I'm between.
Well, and that's
I'm
funny,
between.
too, because
Two
they only
Phillies
do,
that I'm behind.
They only do your exciting thing 4 times a game.
And I will
But
tell,
it is every day.
and it's the idea, though, I'm going to go to the can't miss at bat. And if I'm flipping around, if there's for some reason it's NBA playoff time or it's whatever, and there's a Phillies game on, I'm never missing a Harper at bat. So to me, Harper can do things with his aggressiveness on the base path, sometimes over aggressiveness, his ability to get clutch hits, his ability to he's a dynamic player. You tend to notice him. So Bryce Harper, I think, is my guy.
Your most exciting
that.
player to watch
Yes.
in this city
Most
is
exciting player to watch would be Bryce Harper.
Is it odd? I'm not disagreeing with you at all. This is how I do this job. Is it odd that it's a baseball player to you?
Yes.
Think of it.
Because
Baseball
it's the
and
least exciting game.
Exactly.
It's the least exciting game, but it is the one where the one thing you can do in baseball is you can make appointments to never miss someone's at-bats. And I think Pat, it's you who's talked about it before. Ryan Howard.
Yes, they're in
Right,
that
you never
5-year
missed.
stretch.
You never missed a Ryan Howard at bat.
No.
Yeah, you're going to the bathroom during the Wilson Valdez at bats, not the Ryan Howard at bats. Old Redbeard.
You scheduled him that way.
I think he was going to the bathroom during his at-bats, too. What do you think, Pat?
I
Most exciting player in this city to watch right now?
I think it's probably Joel Embiid when he's healthy.
But we have to take that into consideration.
So
Like,
that's so.
he hasn't been watched in 2 months now.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I need to bring him up because I think he's the best player in the world, even though we haven't watched him in 2 months. And when he comes back, it'll be must-see TV again. And he might be in a minutes restriction. It might be a shell of himself, but because he's coming back from ligament injuries. But I would go with Joel Embiid. If you want to take him out of it, AJ Brown to me is
that's another one.
next level.
That's pretty good.
But Bryce Harper, I mean, I feel like there's no real wrong answer because Bryce Harper is. Yes, you're right. I mean, there's nobody in the city right now you'd rather have up at the plate if you need a run in the 8th or 9th inning.
My cousin says to me, "What about Kyle Schwarber?"
There's wrong answers.
He says, "What about Kyle Schwarber?"
That's not exciting to
He
me,
said-
watching a guy strike out 200 times.
Yeah, but the big hits.
The big hits. But, all right, the big hits are there 47 times out of 700 plate appearances. Like, is that most exciting? I would
that
argue
can't be most exciting.
I would
he
argue
doesn't do
Tyrese
enough.
Maxey over a Kyle Schwarber easily. I would almost argue Tyrese Maxey because you're talking exciting and the way he plays the game. He might have to be in top 3 in the city.
I'm going to sound terrible about this, but since Embiid's been out, I've been a little less enthused with Tyrese. A little less. Not knocking it as being
It's fair.
terrible or something.
No.
It's sort of just been,
I think it's fair because he's being asked to do something that he wasn't supposed to be doing.
That is the
There's
truth.
guys that are just made to be second fiddle. I think a guard, especially with Tyrese Maxey's ability, look, he's just made to be second fiddle.
He needs to be a Robin to a Batman.
You can't build a team around a Tyrese Maxey. You have to have, like, he is the great second piece. Really, really good second piece, maybe a phenomenal third piece. But growing into that really good second piece. But I thought it was an interesting question. Yeah, I don't think we're going to put any flyers there, although, I'm wondering if an Owen Tippett becomes a 40 to 50 goal scoring guy. And, like, that goes back to the days of, man, remember when we were growing up and you had, like, Tim Kerr and stuff like that, and then John LeClaire, and you saw guys scoring 40 and 50 goals. Like, every game, you're like, all right, he's going to get one. And then, you move on to the Phillies, all the names that we mentioned. I think Zach Wheeler's exciting every time he takes him out, but he only takes it once every 5 days.
I think the Phillies have the most exciting players.
We didn't mention Jalen Hurts.
Because, well, the one
now,
thing
2 years ago, he was an MVP candidate.
When Pat mentioned earlier A.J. Brown, so much of A.J. Brown being exciting is reliant on Jalen Hurts being exciting. Is Jalen Hurts being able to do that? And I've got to tell you, Jalen Hurts had an MVP-type season in 2022. He was leading MVP into 2/3 of the way through 2023. But I guess I never looked at Jalen Hurts as being that exciting.
I think he's more exciting when he's
efficient.
full health and he runs the football.
Yeah, it's more exciting then.
Like, I think, at least that's how I look at it. When I hear exciting quarterback, it means he can do a multitude of things. It's not just a great passer. It's not as great as he was. Tom Brady exciting. I thought he was phenomenal to watch because he was so great. I don't know if I would label it exciting. Wow, he made another throw. My God, look at that.
He was the master of efficiency.
He was. But exciting to me, if you're labeling quarterbacks, has to go to like a Randall Cunningham, a Josh Allen, those type of guys that can do multiple things.
I think Mahomes and Allen
Mahomes also
are just like Mahomes is an exciting quarterback to watch. I don't think Brady was an exciting quarterback to watch. I don't think Jalen Hurts is an exciting quarterback to watch. I even think Josh Allen to me is incredibly exciting to watch.
Oh God, yeah.
Because there just is a quality to them like a lumberjack playing quarterback. That it's just sort of there's a look to it. And it's no knock on Jalen. I just don't find, and plus I don't find Jalen exciting. And I don't think, again, that's not a bad thing. It's who he is. It's who he wants to be.
Oh, as a person,
no. I don't find him exciting.
Oh God, no. But
he doesn't
I'll tell
move
you what,
the needle.
When he breaks out of a pocket and plants a right leg and makes a linebacker fall down, then goes to his left and scores a touchdown. When he's doing that during courses of games as well as throwing the football, that's pretty exciting. You know what I mean?
So sure.
I think Saquon Barkley, once we watch him this year, might climb this list that we don't even have him on now because we haven't seen him yet. I thought it was an interesting question because we might just have a plethora of answers and maybe not the same ones.
You agree with me, though? The Phillies have the most?
Probably, and it's hard to say for baseball, but probably like two Sixers, no Flyers really, Eagles a couple.
And when Nola has his strikeout on, which he tends to be, which is why he tends to maybe not go as deep into games as people would want him to, when Nola's got one of his strikeout games going on, he's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Like, you'll see him with 7 strikeouts first time through the order.
Yeah.
And things like that. Those are exciting to watch.
Yeah.
When he's at his most dominant. So the 9 o'clock hour is brought to you by the Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. And for details, go to bagster.com because spring here in just about a week.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, a week. Week till spring.
How about that?
Now, it's not we're already in meteorological spring. I learned that on Channel 6 the other day.
Oh, yeah? What does that mean? That
Meteorological spring.
That the girls can wear sleeveless tops now at 6 ABC?
I don't think that's what the rule is. I think it's that March, April, and May is meteorological spring.
Oh.
June, July, and August is meteorological summer. September, October, November is meteorological fall. I'd never heard that term before till it was used because we were already out of meteorological winter.
I love the fact that you just roll off meteorological as easily as you
did. I'd never heard it before, and I practiced it
It's
a
like
little bit.
me with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
You're very good with that one.
I love saying
You
that.
are good with that.
Yes.
I was looking at this this past year, the Eagles' offense and defense. The Eagles' defense was terrible in the points scored, points allowed quotient. And it was interesting to see is that what number would the Eagles have to improve to? Do we agree the Eagles should be a top 5 offense points scored next year?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Top 5 offense, Pat, is that a absolute barrier that we should not expect them to?
With that offense,
Points scored.
yes.
Points scored, 5.
Yes.
Okay, so I looked at where the Eagles were just a year ago. Just 1 year ago when they went to the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. They were 3rd in points scored in the NFL. So they had the 3rd best offense. They had the 8th best defense points allowed. That's a combined number of 11. That's a really, really good number. The Chiefs have made the Super Bowl the last 2 years at 17 being their number. They were, the year that they won the Super Bowl against the Eagles, they were the number 1 offense, and they were the number 16 defense. So their number 17 was made up of the number 1 scoring offense and the 16th scoring defense. Last year, they were the 15th scoring offense, and they were the 2nd best defense. They completely flipped the script and won a Super Bowl in both years, with that combined number being 17. The 49ers last year made the Super Bowl as NFC champions. They were 6. 3rd in scoring offense, 3rd in scoring defense. I'm sitting there right now saying, look, the lesson being, when the Chiefs beat the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, they were 16th in scoring defense. So what Vic Fangio has to do and come in here is just take them from 30th, take them to top 15, top 14, and you should have a shot with this offense.
Sure.
Because the balance of the Chiefs shows you 17's been their number, and I consider that a little mediocre. Like, when you look at the 49ers, 3rd in offense, 3rd in defense, you look at great balance. But the Chiefs haven't needed that, and they flipped the script.
Yeah.
1 year, great offense, 1 year, great defense. So I don't think Vic Fangio has to come in here and turn water into wine in order to be considered, the savior of this team and its chances to win a Super Bowl.
Well, if he does, he's got a fan in me because I like wine. But I
do too. You like white.
There's no
sometimes.
chance that he's coming in saying, yeah, all I have to do is get to mediocrity. Like,
No.
But that being said, that's a no BS there, Bob. But that being said, that might have to be his goal with the talent that he's going to be given. So, it might be an overriding theme in those offices of, look, we have to outscore teams.
Correct.
So, hey, offense, you got to go out there and score 30, 35 a game. Hey, Vic, you got to keep teams under that. I don't think
What's
you can win.
What's the number you're thinking?
If my
If-
number always
What do you
is
say?
24.
That's exactly what my number is.
If-
My
if-
number is always that for an NFL team. Try to keep it
Really?
24 and
Under 24?
There's no reason why this offense shouldn't average over 25. I feel like. I mean, they're that loaded. Where if they play 4 quarters of football,
I would think.
yeah, I mean, there might be a game or two where they score 21, but like for the most part, they should be putting up close to 30. They're that loaded.
They are.
I mean, unless, and the only instance I can think of barring injury is unless Cam Jurgens just isn't all that great at going back to center, and whoever they get to right guard is mediocre at best, and then kind of their interior of the right side is rough. That's the only thing I could think of that would kind of prohibit them from putting up a lot of points, and I don't really see that happening with Jeff Stoutland.
You brought up multiple boogeymen, though. I mean, you just brought up a multitude of boogeymen. If one of those things happens.
It's bringing up chupacabras. Like, it's bringing up boogeymen, but they're just that. They're not real, because the idea that Jeff Stoutland would have, multiple guys on the offensive line not prepared, I think is kind of foolish.
Yes, I would say so.
I mean, maybe one looks a little bit rough.
Well,
But both of them? I don't think both of them are going to look rough.
Thing is, if you don't think this offensive line is going to take a step back, I think you're Pollyanna. There's no way that an offensive line that loses Jason Kelce is going to be as good as they were the year before. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to suck, but there's no reason to believe this offense doesn't miss a step. This offensive line doesn't miss a step.
Maybe. That would be the sensible thing to say. But like you pointed out, and probably correctly last year, were they the dominating offensive line that they are always claimed to be?
No, they were not.
So, maybe Mailata has a better year. Maybe Landon Dickerson has a better year. Lane Johnson. You're going to lose something from that center position probably. But if those other guys are a little bit better than they were last year, do you notice? I don't know. The right guard thing is intriguing to me. I've told you before that this kid, Jackson Powers Johnson, that I've talked to you guys about from Oregon.
You love this kid.
Look, I think all of us. I shouldn't say all of us. I do this, and maybe you guys do too. You look where the Eagles are picking. You get a handful of guys that are picked around there, and you find one
in that neighborhood.
Yeah, and you find one that you say, "Oh, I think that would be cool."
Well, it's certainly
now,
a fit.
Is this a need? Probably not. You probably need a corner more than you need a center. Maybe even another edge rusher more than a center. But that does intrigue me, this kid. I don't know. You weren't here the week I did it. Went in and I dove into tape of him, of highlights of him. Yeah.
And he won you over.
I'm like, I think I'd like Cam Jurgens to stay at right guard and this kid to be your starting center next year.
Well, I got to tell you, I'd have no problem. If they make a move on the offensive line early in the draft, I'm going to have blind faith that it's a good pick.
Yeah.
And there's very few things where, even with the Eagles, if they pick like you're saying, a corner, if they pick a corner in the 20s, I am not going to have blind faith that they picked the right guy. If they pick an offensive lineman at 22, I'm going to have blind faith that they did the right thing.
Interesting, because there's about the same amount of corners and offensive linemen projected to be there. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty even. That's the most heavy. Those are the two most heavy, take out quarterbacks early on, talented group of people probably
that are populating that area.
Corner and offensive line. Yeah,
I just have and I go back to what Pat has preached for a couple drafts now, and draft day shows and things like that. The Lane Johnson replacement must be drafted. Period. In the first 2 rounds of this draft, you need to have Lane Johnson's replacement.
Yeah, you guys keep saying that.
I believe it. You have to.
There yet? Who was I reading the other day?
Is it because you think he's going to be here for 2 or 3 more years? Because if that's the case, I understand.
One of the beats, I forget who it was like, I don't understand this talk. They weren't talking about you guys. It was something else.
Oh, good.
But they said that they said that they're convinced, and they talked. I think they said Lane Johnson said he's playing until at least the end of 27.
Well, Jeff McClain, in his podcast, Uncovering the Birds, which is absolutely fantastic, he said that there was contemplation that if they had won the Super Bowl last year, that he could have walked away.
They didn't. So he didn't. So,
I understand, but the thing is, if it was contemplated then, I'm saying, well, maybe It would be like, why would I think he's in it for the long term? If there was a chance, he would have walked away with a second Super Bowl title.
And maybe that was the question posed to him, and he said, look, my contract's up at 27. I fully expect to be here. I don't know.
I hope he is, by the way. He's
so
still
do
playing
I.
at a fine level.
Yeah, I just, it's too early for me to go. There's too many holes on this team to say, yeah, let's get a backup for a couple years down the road in the first couple of rounds. There's too many holes on this team.
I just think they
can't do it.
They've thrown bodies at the secondary as far as corner. I think I want to see them play. I think I want to see it sort of play out with what they've done.
Come on, you want to see a guy named Kool-Aid back there. You know you do.
Well, the Kool-Aid is one thing is if you have a big nickname,
yeah, you better back
live,
it up.
you better live up to it.
Yeah,
you
Honey
better live up
Badger's
to
done that. That's probably one of the better.
Yeah,
nicknames
at times.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner.
Oh God, yeah, he's lived up to it.
Revis,
He's really good.
Revis Island back in the day.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Lived up to it.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're gonna play a position that is that out there and that exposed, you better deliver.
Yeah. So it was funny. I was going to throw earlier in the show at you guys when I was looking up some mock draft stuff. Just positions.
Okay.
And would you be okay? Forget players, forget anything. Just positions at number 22, and it comes up edge rusher. The Eagles have selected blank edge rusher. Would you be okay at 22 with that?
Have they? Can you give me? Can you give me? Can you give me the disclaimer
I
that
cannot. The team is as
I
it's
am
currently
not.
constructed.
I am not because I got two guys under contract that I would be fine keeping.
Pat,
that I'd be fine keeping.
Edge rusher. How would it make you feel if this team does that at 22 as currently constructed? Now you can say fine because now they're going to get rid of Josh Sweater. Now they're going to get rid of whatever. So how would that make you feel, Pat? Edge rusher.
Yeah, it's a need. I think it's a very a likely scenario where they would take an edge rusher at 22. At
22?
I mean, this is an organization, and we talk about Eagles offensive or organizational philosophies all the time. This is an organization that builds through the trenches and routinely will draft defensive linemen and offensive linemen when at times it looks like they don't even need it, and they don't care. First round, second round, they'll take them. So I would expect a defensive end to be taken at some point in the first two rounds at this point because they just don't have a lot of depth there. And if you're trading one of Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat, you cannot bank on Nolan Smith going from 10 snaps a game to being a contributor that's going to be up there in 8-9 sacks a season. And even with the Huff edition, I don't think you can count on it. So I would look at 22 and the second round for some edge help because they just need to build that room up a little bit.
Guyton is the guy. One of my Twitter followers pointed out, Jared. Guyton is the guy that Lane Johnson has worked out with, that right tackle, and the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma, Tyler Guyton. And I could absolutely. I'm totally fine. I'll put my head on the pillow that night. If they took him at 22, I'd say, yeah, it's not the biggest need, but I know this team has had sustained excellence because of this. Stability of the offensive line. You invested $250 million in your starting quarterback, and you have tons of toys on the offensive side. I could buy that and buy into it.
Yeah, on the offensive side, but don't forget your Swiss cheese over there on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, but as I said, the Chiefs won a Super Bowl 16th in scoring defense. I don't see that
with this defense constructed
I
right
think
now.
Absolutely, that there's very few times that Vic Fangio finds himself out of the top 12. Like he finds himself a lot in that neighborhood. The high team, the good teens, the low teens. I think I'd take my shot because if you have a chance to get a guy who is a generational type talent at a tackle position, I think I'd take it. Because that has been what has sustained Eagles' excellence. But, hey, there's a lot of people going to have a lot of issues and a lot of questions that they're going to want answered, and we'll be in them. We're less than 6 weeks to the draft, thankfully. Less than 6 weeks to the draft because we're anxious to see how this whole thing shakes out. Bob says, what show did you hate see coming to an end? We'll talk about it next. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic. John Kincade Show on the Fanatic. Appreciate it. The conversations that go on off the air around here are very fun. Very fun to
I
hear.
usually spearhead them. Not that they're fun, because I like to watch these guys think things through.
Okay, what's the? It was a today. It
So
was.
we're throwing the football around, and there's about 8 of us, 9 of us sitting there, and I said, all right, anybody here think that they get one chance to complete a pass in an NFL game? You could do it.
There isn't any shot that any one of us could.
Yeah, and Ray Dunn goes, well, I could. And I said, why? He goes, I think I could complete a pass to A.J. Brown. I said, okay, how you doing that? He goes, just a quick hit right off the line of scrimmage. I said, okay, hold on. You're back there.
Is he in the
Ray
shotgun?
Dunn.
I wonder, is Ray in the shotgun?
Yeah, and I said, defenses are looking at you, Ray, at your 5'8", 125 pounds. So I'm thinking they're probably playing press coverage, because I don't think they're going to think you're going to beat them with a long arm.
That would be my guess.
I said, A.J. Brown's about 12 yards away. You got to take the snap, look at him, and make that throw. You think you're strong enough to make that throw
And the
on
timing
a
of it.
line? Exactly. And then he started to think, well, I trust A.J. Brown. No, I ain't having that. That pass is picked off going the other way. Then I asked everybody, do you think if you got 50 at-bats against a major league pitcher, that major league pitcher, 50 at-bats, could you get a hit? One person said they thought they could.
Yeah.
No.
No way.
Oh, yeah, you weren't there, Pat. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't there. No.
Are you glad you weren't there after hearing this?
No, I like to be involved, but so one person's back there that said they think they can get a hit.
Yeah,
Connor's not here.
I think it's the best baseball player at the station, and it's Andrew.
Yes.
I mean, and I actually agree that Andrew probably could
50 at-bats.
times. Yeah, 50 at bats. I think he could get a hit. 50 at bats. Not 50 pitches, but 50 at bats.
No, 50 at bats.
Yeah, 50 at bats. I do think he could get a hit. 50 pitches, I don't.
Yeah. I'm having never seen Chunas play baseball. I can't speak as confidently as Pat can. I do not believe that anyone at our station is getting a hit 50 at bats in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I don't,
because you can't cherry pick who they're playing, who you're hitting.
You can't, but there's some major league pitchers that are better than others, so you kind of you got. I mean, look, all you have to do is take advantage of the mistake, and 50 at bats. Pitcher's going to leave some over the heart of the plate, so
that's okay.
Yeah.
Sure as hell ain't hitting them.
Well, wait a minute, though, Pat,
neither am I. But Andrew played baseball at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
So.
Here's where I disagree with you, though, on that. I think that the reason that guys miss the zone and maybe miss on pitches is because they're intimidated by the guy at the plate.
They're intimidated.
They don't want to give him anything to hit because that's where they miss. I think if they see someone who's an amateur in there, somebody who isn't, they're attacking. And they're attacking with ferocity. They're not they're not nibbling.
I got to tell you, somebody comes to me, a pitcher, and says, I'm going to throw the ball right here. Come here, I'll show you. And it's going to come in at 97 miles an hour. I would start swinging as soon as he stopped talking to try to catch up to it. So I don't think I could do that, no. Then I asked, could you score a point if you played 20 minutes of an NBA game?
No one here could.
No shot.
No one here could.
Dylan tried to jump in and say, well, I could cherry pick. And maybe they throw, or no, Dylan said nobody would cover him, so he might have a chance.
He said he was going to chuck some up from like no man's land.
Yeah.
Just every chance he got. And then you said, well, then you'll be benched.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just is the idea. I don't believe anyone could score. Like Ray goes, well, maybe I could because I would only if I was cherry picking. So I was cherry picking. I said, the problem is if he's cherry picking around the center court line and then starts to break, an NBA player is going to cut that gap down. They're so much faster.
Yeah.
They're like he's never going to be able to be he's not going to have enough of a lead.
No, and then our own Mike Vito, who's about 6'4", I'll say maybe 220. He says, yeah, I think I could just go down there and, pound around the backboard and grab a rebound and get out.
No,
I said, Mike, their smallest player is bigger than you.
Wait a minute.
So you're not really pounding anybody.
Colin Newby comes up with a great point. Does Ricky Bo count in these conversations?
No, I'm talking about just the people we had. Yes, just that
we had back there. Because I thought about it. Nobody here. I was talking about there. I never thought because Ricky Bo
was a professional athlete.
And Ricky Bo might be able to score a basket. He could get fouled.
We could all get fouled.
No, but I mean, but Ricky Bo has that you could see him maybe being in there and not being afraid to get underneath and get knocked around a little bit in order to get fouled to be able to get to the foul line. I think Ricky Bowe would be the one that I would go with there.
He's got a shot. I told you guys before the story of going to a Sixers game when I was still playing. I think I was playing in college, and turning to my dad after I was watching. Who was it? Who used to be the coach of the Washington Wizards, Oklahoma City Thunder? Small guy,
the small guy,
small blonde-haired guy. He used to play for the Sixers. Pat begins with a B. I forget his name. Anyway, we're watching a game. He was a backup on the Sixers, and I turned to my dad and I said, "Yeah, I think I could cover him."
Oh no!
And my dad turned to me.
Scotty Brooks.
Scotty Brooks. My dad, man, a few words, as I told you, turned right to my face and said, "Shut the F up." And I think my dad was my biggest fan playing basketball. I really do. Honest to God, I do. He never complimented me or anything, but I know he liked watching me play. Told me to shut the F up at a Sixers game when I said I could maybe hang with Scotty Brooks a little bit. And he was right, I'm sure.
All right, now you've been you were looking for something to watch a few weeks ago. And like you were talking about, like shows you might start or shows you might start to watch. You had some time, and you were going to watch something and everything. And shows coming to an end, and shows that you watch it's meaningful to people.
Yeah, well, it's funny because the other day, I think that show Friends is it on 24/7?
It is. It's on like
okay.
TBS and everything like that.
Okay,
it's on quite often.
One of the TVs that I passed in the house, I was left on, and it was the last episode of that.
Okay.
So they're all like, the one guy had a good line. Somebody says, like, you want to go get coffee? And he goes, sure. Where? Which half of the show was done in a coffee shop, right? So anyway, wow, end of the show. What shows were there that ended? Now, that show I looked at, I was like, it was time for it to end. Like Andy Reid coaching here, it was time for it to end. What shows that you watched do you wish weren't ending? And also Curb ending brought this up with the passing of what's his face the other day?
Richard Lewis.
Richard Lewis, yeah.
What's his face?
So was there shows that ended and you were like, oh, finally it's over? Were there shows that you wish would have gone on that had a famous ending? I'll give you one. I think Seinfeld, it was time.
Do you
to
really?
Me, it was time for Seinfeld to end, yeah. And this was even more of a sour note. I hated the last episode of Seinfeld.
I hated it.
Everybody did.
Yeah, right?
I hated it. There's when we went and saw Jerry at Borgata last year, he talked about the fact that they have discussed many times redoing the finale.
Oh, is that right?
That has come up over cocktails, has come up in conversations among the cast that wouldn't they like a redo on the last episode? And so, yeah, I think that was one. I didn't think that show needed to end.
No?
Like I think, Pat, it's a more recent show and it's a streaming show. I think that Ozark was rushed. Like I don't think Ozark needed to end.
Maybe one other season, but I kind of rather have shows end where we go, it didn't need to end.
I love
Ozark.
I loved it
that
too.
Extra season where you go, oh God, it probably should have ended. Like,
I felt it was time. I'm with you
so
on
you
that.
did think it was? You really did.
I know you guys don't watch Game of Thrones, but that last season was horrible.
My wife said it was completely rushed, though.
It was rushed. It was bad. It was not entertaining. And, yeah, it was just it was gross. That sucked. The one show that I thought could have continued that I really liked was Friday Night Lights. That's one of my favorite shows of all time.
How long did that go on, though, Pat? Like 7 years?
Nah, maybe 5, 6.
5, 6?
And that was like a critical darling that not a lot of people watched. And then it hit Netflix and more people got into it and stuff. But I loved Friday Night Lights, and I would talk of a movie, but at that point it's time's passed, so it's not going to happen. And then Breaking Bad, I thought that was like perfectly timed.
Perfectly timed.
And they had the movie come out on Netflix, El Camino. That was interesting, but I thought the way that they ended Breaking Bad, I thought was absolutely perfect. Because I think a lot of times ending TV shows is difficult. People don't want a hit TV show to end, and because of that, I feel like it's tough to end a show correctly. I mean, Lost was a prime example of 2.5 hours. That show was.
By the way, JR just brings that up here on social media. He says Lost went one season too long.
Yeah.
Horrible. They had no idea what to do with it. They had no idea how to wrap it up. I'll never forget sitting in my house being like, they have a half hour left and they're not going to answer anything. It was rough. Ted Lasso, I thought the ending with that was great.
How about
3 seasons was perfect.
Sopranos? Did it go on too long, just right,
Yes.
or
Yes.
just
A little long.
Little long?
Like they could have gone 1 year less.
Okay.
In my mind, they could have gone 1 year less. But I think that was still one of the.
Show.
I still think it was one of the greatest shows ever.
Now, when we were kids, one of the biggest endings of all time of a show happened. It might still be in like the top 3 of all time shows watched, and that was MASH. Remember?
And I never liked. I guess
loved
I didn't
MASH.
relate. I was a kid. I just didn't relate.
I loved watching reruns of MASH when I was growing up, but I remember being little, and that ending of that show came, and I was like, my God, thank God. And the last show was horrible. So that was one that always stuck in my mind, too. Cheers, which is my all-time favorite show.
Well, Cheers had 2 iterations.
It did. It had,
Because
yeah,
it had the
Kirstie
Shelley Long
Alley,
iteration and the Kirstie Alley.
Yeah.
And I liked the Shelley Long better. With Coach.
I think so,
with
too.
With Coach and with Shelley Long.
Yeah.
And then, like, Woody Harrelson was very, very good.
Yes, he was.
But Woody was just the typical, I'm going to say the stupidest things. They wrote him so stupid, I didn't like the character as much. He was just too stupid.
Yeah.
It's like Joey on Friends. It's like, like they write the character so stupid
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
that you're like, okay, this isn't the way someone is.
Who the hell would hang out with this person?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't know why it came into my mind, but I just saw the ending of a show the other week, and I was,
What was the ending of that show?
Of Friends? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Friends.
The Friends
and
one,
you didn't
yeah.
like. You thought Friends needed to end. I loved Friends.
Yeah,
Like,
did you?
I loved
yeah,
Friends.
I hated it.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, Pat, I don't think it was. It was one of those things where people was. I don't think it was for you. Like you were not of the age group that it was.
Yeah,
for.
but you know what? I wasn't of the age group for Seinfeld, and I didn't understand half the jokes. But I found that show hilarious, and I found it even funnier the older I got because I started to understand the jokes.
love
Like
that.
I started to understand the context. You know, when I started watching Seinfeld, it was like the goofy guy Kramer, and then it got progressively better for me. Friends, I just found annoying more than anything. I found most of the characters insufferably annoying. The only one I liked was Chandler.
Yeah, well,
I was like, oh, he's kind of normal, but the rest of these people are just, oh.
I would just say to me, it's the idea that there's shows that I think are meant for certain demographics.
Yeah.
And every the Friends cast like is exactly my age. Within I could go 1 year up, 2 year up, 2 year down, and the Friends cast is so I really related to the age group and everything like that. That it was my wife always says it was the first thing that made her smile again after 9/11. Friends was one of the first shows to come back because remember they weren't showing, everything sort of shut down for a little bit, and they were like, "Is it appropriate to laugh again?" and everything. And she watched Friends, and she was like, "Okay, that made me smile again, watching that cast." And so I mean, it's like one of those things that
I feel like I'm in the minority with Friends because.
I think
pretty much everybody I talk to loves Friends.
Like I like The Office. My daughter and her friends who are in their late teens and early 20s love The Office.
I like The
They
Office.
think
I
it's
was a bigger Parks and Rec fan, but
and I tried that. No. I tried Community.
Yeah, Community.
And I didn't mind it, but that
It's
Joel
fine.
McHale is insufferable.
Huge fan of him either.
I just don't like it.
Parks and Rec I felt like had a really good ending too. There's another show that I thought
And again,
it can be done.
I watched that. I watched that on planes.
Parks and Rec?
For some reason, they have that on when I would do all those flights those Delta flights back and forth between here and Atlanta to begin with. I was watching. That was on, I guess, Delta's library.
Okay.
And I would watch it, and I go, okay, I've seen this, so I'll watch some more. That was a quality show that I sort of missed.
Yeah.
That I missed. with that.
Friends to me is like that background thing. If there's nothing on and you're like laying on the couch or something, you turn it on or whatever. It's like background music or something. I didn't mind it. Yeah, that was fine.
I will say this: we were late to Curb, and it is spectacular.
Yeah, I'm
we were
still
late to
on
it.
Curb. Like I've seen more than a dozen episodes, but like
You didn't watch it from the beginning?
No.
Okay,
I haven't.
if you do though, it's we were late to it, and it's really really good. And but Larry David is, if that is truly who he is, he's
Seems like it.
If it is though, he's a jackass. He really, if that really is how he acts, and how the way he looks at life.
I think it's the way he looks at life. I can't imagine that's the way he really acts.
It's funny as hell though.
Oh God, yeah.
It's a great show. Sometimes though, shows come to an end. and then people go their separate directions, and it's a lot of fun, and they all go on and then have very productive lives.
That's
Otherwise,
right.
That's
Yep.
what we're hoping.
Sometimes change happens.
That's what you hope for. Hey, Fanatic Fridays are presented by Pump Man Philly.
Pump, pump, pump.
Pump, 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 pump. For 24/7 emergency repair or pump replacement, you can count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. There is a. So we were just talking about position groups, Bob, is what you're saying with the draft coming up. And Pat, I know you had a question about priorities heading for the draft now, because it's only been a few days of free agency, but in your mind, has it changed your sort of shopping list for the Eagles in the draft?
I think my shopping list for the draft is probably always going to be linebacker 1 because they don't do it. So it'd be like, all right, that'd be cool just to see
A first-round linebacker?
first round, but it's not going to happen.
No,
It's like asking for Margot Robbie to be home when you head.
Well, her restraining order keeps you from being.
This is 500 feet, but I think she's just playing hard to get. So
And she
scrap,
is.
scrap,
She
li-
succeeds.
She's
yeah.
succeeding.
scrap linebacker from it. Have they done anything to make you go, all right, I wanted this. Now I think they need this, because for me it was secondary help, and now I lean more towards defensive end.
Well, if you were looking at things as far as if we're looking at it from the top or the bottom, and Pat, you said you were more looking at the top earlier in that discussion. I would say that I want a third-day running back. So I want somebody in the fourth round or below that is going to be the replacement for Kenny Gainwell next year, because I don't want to pay Kenny Gainwell. So when Kenny Gainwell walks away after this year, I want his replacement to already be on the roster and to have a development there. And it looks like Boston Scott's going to be gone. So you have a roster spot for it. So find me a Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott type on the third day of the draft. There's something that has changed. I may have even gone higher if they hadn't gotten Saquon Barkley. If you told me they were letting DeAndre Swift go and they didn't sign Saquon Barkley, I would have wanted a second or third round running back. So now I'm looking at it, okay, give me a third day running back. And I don't know, hearing the insiders talk about the guys that they believe, including Isaiah Rodgers, who could come back this year, I don't think I want a corner in the first round.
I'll tell you, the spots I'd be okay in the first round are offensive line, corner. You know what? Edge rusher doesn't bother me. It doesn't moving forward if they have some kind of plan with what they're doing. So, yeah, those are the ones. Here's one that a position that I've been really looking at over the last couple of days, and I hope they address it somewhat early, and I think it may surprise you guys.
What's that one?
Tight end.
Oh, I'm absolutely fine with going and finding a tight end.
I don't think I'm going to be totally pissed off if in the third round they grab a tight end and you say, wait, what? They still need, corner, safety, this, that. Yeah, I mean, you don't really have a backup tight end. I mean, who just left? Somebody, one of those.
Stoll. Stoll just went to the Giants. So, by the way, Pat, you saw that. Saquon comes to the Eagles, but they went and stole Jake Stoll from us.
And you know what? If you tell me that there's not tampering going on with Big Blue trying to get Jack Stoll, I think the Eagles need to open up an inquiry. I love the silence that just went on.
Well, Jack Stoll, I mean,
that joke just died on the table.
No, it's not the joke.
I thought you were saying
it's not the joke. It's the idea, Pat, that if you don't have something nice to say, Jack Stoll may develop into something.
No, Jack Stoll is what he is. He's going to be
the blocking tight end.
He's going to be a 7 and 8 year vet, 9-year vet, and he's going to be a blocking tight end, and he'll catch a ball every now and then, and that is all he is, and that is fine.
I look at it as we're going to be watching a L.A. Chargers game 3 years from now, and Jack Stoll's going to catch a pass, and we're going to be like, oh, my God, that's where he is? He's still here, and good luck to him. You build a nice career, get that pension set up for you.
Absolutely.
I would absolutely want them to get a tight end.
Yeah, I just think if, you get a pass cat. Now, look, I know all the holes on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm probably wrong in wanting this. But I don't think I would mind a third-round tight end.
I wouldn't have any problem with it at all.
Yeah, because tight ends, there's, the kid Bowers, of course, from Georgia is number one, and that kid is phenomenal, and he's probably going to be a pro for years and years and years. But after that, there's a pretty good drop off. So yeah, I wouldn't mind them addressing that. And you can go 2 tight end sets. And look, if you're going to make this offense the whirlwind that it appears it's going to be, keep going, man, and make it totally unstoppable.
Yeah, I said it's one of those things where you may look at it as if they go really young in the draft, if they go really young at most parts of the draft, then on defense, then maybe you do spend one of those picks on you get a third-day running back, you get a tight end in maybe the 3rd round, and you just say we're loading up with young defense, and this offense is going to have to bridge the gap and going to have to help carry us over.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's going to be something that is successful because, look, the Chiefs did it.
Yeah, and with players like Keely Ringo and Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean, if you're being true to your word of what you said after the season was over, that, yeah, we got to give the younger guys more of a look, well, yeah, then maybe you're doing this all right by, while you're playing them, making sure that offense is a powerhouse. And that's what they're loading up to try to be.
By the way, Jim Burns sends in an email, and he says his favorite sitcom of all time, we're talking about the shows thing, shows that ended, was 2.5 Men with Charlie Sheen.
I never got into that.
Oh, my
show.
gosh.
You know what? I'm not a Charlie Sheen fan.
See, we never passed on. We loved 2.5 Men with Charlie Sheen. Now, when Ashton Kutcher came on, it definitely didn't have the same. He was a different character. He played a different character. And Charlie was just sort of deplorable. And he was funny as hell.
Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't get into that show at all.
And he thinks that Seinfeld was a little bit too, like the lines came at the perfect time. It didn't seem as conversational, Jim says.
Yeah.
You know, as far as how the lines came. I think Seinfeld was one of the most intricately written shows ever. The way all the storylines came together at the end, and you didn't know how the two opposing storylines were going to collide at the end.
Yeah.
So I always loved that part of it. Really, really good. So it's look, we got as the weekends go along, we're just gonna, I guess now we enter into a little bit of a quiet period for free agency. Now that the free agency frenzy is gone, now stuff's going to trickle in. So as we get, I think baseball just starts to, steal the spotlight for a few weeks as we get ready for the draft.
Oh, it sure does.
And now misinformation season begins. I think it's now, you will now see players who have been built up over the next 3-4 weeks. It will be all about tearing down the guys who are at the top of the draft. That's how the storyline will now shift. Players that you've heard about in the top 10, top 15, you will now start to hear the let's tear this guy down, let's tell you everything that's wrong with them. And some of that comes from even players that have wanted to slip in the draft a little bit. Sometimes it comes from a team, a player to slip in the draft, that they will spread, we don't like this guy because of this, this, and this. And then those insiders run with it, trying to lower their stock. So just don't believe a lot of what you hear in the next few weeks as we approach the draft.
There's a name that I didn't know you were going to bring this up that came to my mind right away, and it wasn't a build-up, that I think it's going to be a fall dramatically type of thing. This McCarthy kid from Michigan, the quarterback, has popped up at like number 4 overall now.
It's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Look, I appreciate what he did in college, and he was a gamer, and, when you needed yards, he could run a little bit for you. But, look, it's just me watching. I probably watched 3 or 4 full Michigan games this year.
Did he wow you at all?
The fact that he's gone up to be like maybe the number 4, and he was in a mock draft that I called up today. He was
it
number
Denver taking
4.
him? A lot of people are pointing him at Denver now.
It wasn't Denver. I forget who it was. But I think he's going to be that guy that in the draft falls.
Slides where you're going to hear a lot of talk about him.
Yeah, he's been built up really well, but I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's the quarterback that you're putting your franchise hands in.
We can end the week with, Pat, he's not that guy.
He's not.
Which really puts a bow on it. He's not that guy.
This happens every year. It's teams fall in love with a quarterback because they just, they get enamored with the position, and then that's how Paxton Lynch goes.
Yeah,
27.
What did he go? 50? Was it? I thought he went like 15.
No, I was in the 20s.
Really?
Never traded back in.
Oh boy!
But it wasn't good.
Hey, Pat, you're that guy. Bob, you're that guy.
Yeah, Pat is.
You are that guy.
You are too.
Thank you. Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partners, Pumpman Philly and make a donation today to the American Association for Cancer Research. We appreciate that you do it every day at 975thefanatic.com/AACR, because cancer research saves lives. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. John Kincade.